The pressure on the more than 100 people holding the front door chains was suddenly reduced. On the other hand, the support on Xia Chuan's side wasn't as effective. In the center of the main hall, although there were over 400 people, the 4 iron chains they were pulling were linked to the entire wooden house's joints and bore much more impact than the 100 people at the main entrance. Moreover, there was a large iron door on the west side blocking the way, and the wooden house's structure hadn't completely collapsed, so practically no cold beasts had broken in. However, the southeast and northern sides were not as fortunate. The wooden house's compartments were already empty, and once the cold beasts got in, their target was all more than 400 people in the main hall. By the time Xia Chuan and others came down, 3 or 4 cold beasts had already begun their feast, which was the source of the screams Xia Chuan heard from the second floor. Swishing. Before Su Ning reached the scene, he shot an iron arrow at a Teng Jiao that was biting someone. The arrow was incredibly powerful, piercing through the Teng Jiao's eyes and pinning its head to the ground. Splash! Xia Chuan arrived and beheaded the Teng Jiao with a swipe. Then, along with Yue Feng, began to drive away cold beasts from the other directions. My lord, we can't hold on any longer. At this moment, Mu Dong's face was flushed, his chest stained with blood from the friction of the iron chains, coloring his shirt red. Despite telling Xia Chuan that they couldn't hold on, both his hands still gripped the end of the iron chain tightly, not relaxing at all. The other 400-plus people in the logging realm, although they said nothing, all glanced at Xia Chuan with meaningful looks. Clearly, Mu Dong's words also reflected their current feelings. Tonight's cold beast tide numbered at least 500. The wooden walls, iron spikes, Teng Jiao poison skins, poison sacks they previously set up, and their initial archery from the 3rd floor indeed took down quite a few, but the total did not even reach 100, which was only about a fifth of the entire tide. With nearly 400 cold beasts charging simultaneously, plus the subsequent 4 intermediate cold beasts, the fact that the wooden house could hold on without collapsing until now was largely thanks to the 500-plus people in the logging realm on the ground floor. Knowing that these 500 people on the ground floor had reached their limits, Xia Chuan still gritted his teeth and hardened his heart, slashing the snow mane in front of him and saying, "Hold on a bit longer. There are wooden mannequins fighting the 4 intermediate cold beasts. As long as the wooden house doesn't fall and we contain these low-level cold beasts, we can survive." Although some cold beasts had broken into the 2nd floor, their numbers weren't large. Luo Yuan and the others should be able to hold for a little while with no problem. But if the ground floor was completely breached and the wooden house collapsed, it would be over. There are only a few minutes left until it's completely dark. Once it gets dark, these cold beasts won't be as strong. Hang in there a bit longer. We have to hold on. What exactly are we holding on to? Lord Xia Chuan, where is the head leader? Is he outside dealing with other, stronger cold beasts? Among the people pulling the iron chains in the logging realm, one person suddenly asked loudly. With that, everyone's gaze instinctively turned to Xia Chuan, including Mu Dong. More than an hour had passed since nightfall. There were only a few minutes left until it was completely dark. Yet the head leader Xia Hong hadn't made an appearance. The wooden house was only so big. Xia Chuan could hear the commotion on the 1st floor from the 2nd, and likewise, these people on the 1st could hear activities upstairs. Indeed, from the beginning, they hadn't heard Xia Hong's voice. In such a critical moment, why hadn't the head leader Xia Hong appeared? Was a breakthrough really this critical? The wooden house was already in such disrepair, and Xia Hong was still secluded. It didn't seem possible. A terrifying thought began to surface in the minds of some people. As they looked at Xia Chuan, despair slowly filled their eyes. Especially since Xia Chuan hadn't said a word for so long, the despairing sentiment only grew stronger, spreading gradually among the crowd. The great Xia has gotten to where it is today. You all know who the head leader is better than I do. Don't overthink. If he's not coming out, then it means it's not yet time. We only need to do what we should. Whether we survive or not is up to us. If you don't trust the head leader and don't trust Big Brother. An hour of tension also made Xia Chuan irritable. After reading what they were thinking from their eyes, his anger intensified. After saying his piece, he slashed at the frost wolf in front of him, pushed it back, and roared at the people behind him. Let go now and run on your own. At his words, everyone shook with emotion, recalling previous images of Xia Hong, including everything he had done for the camp. Cold beast meat, wood puppet monster, rodent swarms, and the mirror immortal camp. The head leader is not that kind of person. He wouldn't abandon us and run alone. That's right, if anyone dares to distrust the head leader, I'll be the first to not let them off. We're in this deep now, yet let go. For all we know, the head leader is just a hair's breadth from breaking through. Hold on, brothers. As long as we hang on until the head leader comes out, we'll live. Trust in Xia Hong ultimately prevailed. With each roar and shout, the crowd's waning spirit quickly rallied, and the 4 iron chains actually pulled back inward a little. Bang, bangs, boom. Several tremors could be heard around the wooden house. Xia Chuan looked up at the 4 corners and saw 4 wooden mannequins transformed into Thunder Kui, each facing a cold beast outside the house. The wooden mannequins transformed to Thunder Kui due to Thunder Kui's superior, comprehensive strength. It is said that even against the intermediate cold beasts like Teng Jiao, Snow Mane, Demon Sheep, and Frost Wolf, a real intermediate Thunder Kui should not suffer a loss against any of them. Chapter 287. Chapter 160. The night has fallen. They should arrive /4. Not to mention, the intermediate Thunder Kui transformed from the wooden mannequins isn't afraid of pain. In such a situation, it's expected that the 4 Thunder Kui transformed from the wooden mannequins, even if unable to kill the 4 intermediate cold beasts outside the wooden house, should at least have the upper hand. But at this moment the reality is, the 4 Thunder Kui and the 4 cold beasts outside are evenly matched, with neither side having the advantage. On the eastern side, a Thunder Kui collided, crushing Teng Jiao's chest directly. Yet Teng Jiao acted as if nothing had happened, standing half upright, with eyes gleaming like a mirror, and leapt back toward the Thunder Kui. Not just on the eastern side, but the Snow Mane on the western side, the Demon Sheep on the southern side, and the Frost Wolf on the northern side were the same. These 4 intermediate cold beasts are not only unafraid of pain, but also seem fearless of death, or rather, they do not seem to feel their injuries at all. Especially seeing the Snow Mane on the western side, whose front limb was snapped by a blow from the Thunder Kui, and yet in just 4 or 5 breaths, it stood back up as if nothing had happened. Xia Chuan's pupils instantly constricted. Fearless of death, isn't that how the people from the mirror immortal camp are? No, it's not just fearlessness of death. These 4 cold beasts can also ignore their injuries. Bang! Although the 4 intermediate cold beasts were restrained by the Thunder Kui transformed from the wooden mannequins, the large iron gate on the western side finally collapsed under the relentless assault of the 2 to 300 Snow Manes and Demon Sheep outside. Yuan Cheng, pull back the people quickly. Everyone listen to my command. When I count to 3, release together. The moment the gate collapsed, Xia Chuan turned to glance at the sky and immediately shouted twice. The first shout was directed at Yuan Cheng and the over 100 people at the gate. The second shout was toward Mu Dong and the more than 400 people in the main hall. 1. Xia Chuan finished speaking and began counting down. As the gate collapsed, Yuan Cheng led over 100 people to retreat, and outside the western gate, a dark mass of Snow Mane Demon Sheep poured in like a tide. 2. By the second count, the beast horde from the west was less than 100 meters away from everyone. 3. As soon as the count reached 3, Mu Dong was the first to release, followed by over 400 people, though some were faster and some slower, but the interval was less than a breath, almost simultaneously releasing the chains in their hands. Clang, clang, clang. Without the strength of the people pulling the chains, the iron materials at the crucial points of the wooden house rapidly reset. The speed was so fast that it even dragged out 4 long lines of fire on the ground. Boom! Without the reinforcement of those iron materials, the collision from the cold beasts outside made an immediate impact, and the 4 walls of the wooden house began their first wave of collapse. Now, not only the Snow Mane Demon Sheep at the western main gate, but also the Teng Jiao on the eastern side, and the Frost Wolves on both the southern and northern sides, all rushed into the first floor of the wooden house following the collapsing wooden walls. The overwhelming surge of cold beasts caused a terrifying tremor, and Xia Chuan and others, standing unsteadily in the center of the main hall, had the most to say about it. Everyone's faces were filled with fear, looking up at the cold beasts charging from all directions. Some desperate people even closed their eyes directly. However, just as the wooden house collapsed to its most central position, coincidentally when the cold beasts were only 100 meters away from everyone. Clang! The chains that had fully reset suddenly seemed to be caught by something. Half of the outer layer of the wooden house collapsed, revealing a four-sided 50-meter-long bluish bamboo fence, blocking the cold beasts in front. Those bamboo fences were diagonal and crisscrossed, with a layer of more than 20 centimeters of sharp, dense spikes on the surface, and when the cold beasts attempted to charge through, those spikes shot out like raindrops at them. Whoosh and whoosh and whoosh. Splat! The power of those spikes was terrifying to the extreme. Watching the cold beasts fall one after another across the bamboo fence, Xia Chuan, Yue Feng, and the others, the despair on their faces disappeared instantly. Only Xia Chuan, looking up at the already completely dark sky, clenched the fist under his sleeve tightly. It's dark now, those beasts should be coming any time. Chapter 288. Chapter 161, Who told you that the furnace needed someone to light it? The reason why humans cannot withstand the low temperatures during the day. The primary reason is sunlight. The sun in the ice abyss world clearly has issues. The rays it emits are filled with piercing cold. The ordinary human skin cannot resist it. Standing in the sunlight for just a few breaths is enough for the cold light to penetrate, freezing the blood within, leading to the inevitable fate of turning into an ice sculpture, welcoming death. Day sleeping and night waking apply to all humans who haven't reached the cold resistance level. The deceitful monster behind the mirror immortal camp chose to create this cold beast tide just as night was about to fall, making its intention clear. It forced them to extinguish the fire of the iron refining furnace, and then when night falls, the group of earth-digging realm below the mirror immortal camp could come over. Knowing the fire source of the iron refining furnace can attract cold beasts, they probably understand the function of torches too. Although the green bamboo fence was effective and successfully withstood the first wave of low-level cold beasts, the problem was that there were simply too many cold beasts. Not counting the dozens crawling along the wooden walls to the second floor, there were at least nearly 400 cold beasts rushing in from all sides on the first floor, and only about 50 or 60 fell before the sharp spikes of the green bamboo fence. With just a glance, Xia Chuan could roughly estimate that there were still over 300 cold beasts charging towards him beyond the green bamboo fence. At this number, whether they are low-level or intermediate, it makes little difference. With only these dozen earth-digging realm and over 500 logging realm, they couldn't possibly block them. If the two sides came into contact, this group would immediately be crushed into pieces. Xia Chuan turned his head, surveying the surroundings of the wooden house, his expression extraordinarily grim. Once the over 500 logging realm on the first floor released the iron chains, the wooden house's walls were all breached by the cold beasts. The battle between the 4 intermediate cold beasts and the wooden mannequins had already demolished the interior of the wooden house beyond recognition. The second floor had long been ravaged by the cold beasts that had drilled their way in earlier, full of holes and damage. At present, the entire wooden house had only the central hall stairway and a surrounding area of about a dozen meters left not yet collapsed, but it too was teetering on the brink of collapse. Xi Ping extinguished the fire first, then reignited it. At a critical moment, Xia Chuan looked up and shouted upstairs. On the second floor, Xi Ping, who was desperately holding back a frost wolf, heard Xia Chuan's voice, and his expression changed immediately. "You go up first, I'll hold them here." A large blade swept from the side. Luo Yuan, disregarding the snow mane chasing him, struck the frost wolf in front of Xi Ping and shouted sharply, signaling for him to go upstairs. "All right." Sensing the imminent danger surrounding him, Xi Ping knew there was no time for softness. He gritted his teeth and climbed up to the third floor using the crumbling wooden staircase. The only slightly intact part of the wooden house was the central area of the third-floor hall. However, its main structure was also barely holding on, already starting to shake and collapse in parts. In the center of the third-floor hall, 400 to 500 children gathered together. Lin Wan, Shilu, and some logging realm women from the camp stood on the periphery, protecting the children in the middle. As Xi Ping reached the third floor, everyone nervously looked towards him. "Brother Xi Ping, are we going to die?" On the outermost side, 6-year-old Luoan, though also looking nervous, protected those inside like a little adult, seeing Xi Ping and couldn't help but ask in a crisp voice. But Xi Ping had no time for him. Taking a swift step to the center of the hall by the furnace, stripped off his clothes and quickly doused the flames. Then he retrieved the iron core bow hanging from his back, walking towards the west side and loudly shouted, "Don't be afraid, none of us will die." Luoan, Zhu Ping, and the other children heard Shi Ping's voice, and their faces immediately lit up with hope. The outer women like Lin Wan and Shi Lu, unlike the children's innocence, forced themselves to smile while their eyes were filled with despair. Many of those holding babies in their arms even began to sob softly. The moment the iron refining furnace was extinguished, all the low-level cold beasts inside the wooden house had the frenzy on their faces vanish instantly. These cold beasts don't seem as fierce as before. It's night now, they are supposed to be weaker at night. No, it's not just that they seem to stop looking upwards. Luo Yuan and others, entangled with the cold beasts in the second-floor hall, felt it keenly. Especially Luo Yuan, who had already mounted a frost wolf's back. Though the wolf had been slashed several times, it still bore its injuries, charging towards the staircase. But just now, the frost wolf seemed to freeze for a moment. Its upward charge halted abruptly. Turning around, it focused on fighting him instead. It must be the iron refining furnace, extinguished. Luo Yuan felt a sliver of hope, his large blade cleaving into the frost wolf's spine, turning to gaze outside over the western valley, his eyes full of expectation. Upstairs, go upstairs first. At the moment the iron refining furnace went out, Xia Chuan on the first floor distinctly felt it too. The reason was simple. Those more than 300 cold beasts that had crossed the green bamboo fence suddenly froze in place, their frenzy significantly reduced, and their gazes all shifted from the rooftop to them. With the fire of the iron refining furnace out, they naturally became the targets. When everyone heard Xia Chuan's voice, they quickly headed upstairs, but with over 500 people, no matter how fast, it was impossible for all of them to go up at once. Chapter 289. Chapter 161, Who Told You the Stove Needs to Be Lit by Someone, /2. At this moment, the cold beast that had just stalled rushed toward them again. Spread out, guard the stairs, hold them off for a while, just a while. Xia Chuan ordered the 12 Earth-Digging Realm members, including Yuan Cheng and Yue Feng, while he positioned himself on the west side of the stairs. The rest quickly scattered, surrounding the more than 500 people climbing the stairs, fending off the few cold beasts that had already broken through the perimeter. Keep in mind, Luo Yuan on the second floor, with over 50 Earth-Digging Realm members, struggled immensely to fend off dozens of low-level cold beasts. On the first floor, Xia Chuan's side, including himself, had only 13 people. Yet 300 to 400 cold beasts charged at them. How could they possibly hold their ground? A snow mane suddenly slammed into Xia Chuan's chest, its long tusks piercing his right shoulder. Xia Chuan's vision blurred as he noticed the snow mane preparing to spit at him. With a slight movement of his hands, transparent threads flew out, wrapping around the snow mane's protruding tongue and pulling it aside. Although the snow mane was pulled away, his right shoulder was rendered useless. Gritting his teeth, Xia Chuan switched his large knife to his left hand and slashed horizontally at the snow mane's open blood basin mouth. The snow mane's mouth was split open, the wound extending to the back of its head, and its body was flung 3 to 4 meters away by the force of the blow. After slaying the snow mane with one strike, Xia Chuan's expression did not relax. Instead, he became even more tense. Because the cold beasts had completely surrounded them. Yuan Cheng, Yue Feng, and the other 10 Earth-Digging Realm members on the other side were also surrounded by cold beasts. Not only was his shoulder pierced by the snow mane, but the others were also injured, most worse than him. Only half of the over 500 Logging Realm people had made it up the stairs. The people outside who hadn't made it up yet were already helping them fight the cold beasts, but with mere Logging Realm strength, the damage they inflicted on the cold beasts was negligible, at best serving as a slight delay. The situation was precarious. Xia Chuan raised his head and shouted angrily toward the third floor. Why isn't it ready yet? Where's the fire? The fire! Shi Ping, what are you doing? Boom! As he roared from the wooden house's west side, outside the valley entrance, a booming sound occurred. Outside the western side of the valley, a gigantic pillar of fire, 5 or 6 meters in diameter, suddenly shot skyward, reaching over 100 meters high. At the moment the flames soared, all the low-level cold beasts inside and outside the wooden house had their pupils contract sharply, and just like earlier when they glanced toward the iron refining furnace, their gaze instantly turned toward the flames. Roar! On the second floor, a demon sheep battling Luo Yuan suddenly jerked its head, using its sharp horns to push him aside, then turned to stare at the flames outside the valley, its eyes instantly bloodshot. Regardless of anything else, it leaped down from the wooden house, charging toward the flames. This demon sheep was just a small representation. In the blink of an eye, all the cold beasts on the second and first floors abandoned their skirmishes with Xia Hong, Luo Yuan, and others, rushing toward the western side of the valley where the pillar of fire was. On the third floor, at the westernmost end, Shi Ping, still holding the unreset bowstring, looked at the flaming pillar several hundred meters away with extreme excitement in his eyes when he noticed all the low-level cold beasts from inside the wooden house rushing outward. My lord, the Lord's plan really worked, ha ha ha. The cold beasts are gone. The cold beasts are all gone. Taking the opportunity to loudly inform everyone in the building, Shi Ping finally let out all the emotions pent up inside him. Since the start of the cold beast tide, he had always been the one responsible for the iron refining furnace. Whether following Xia Chuan to shoot arrows in the corridor or guarding the stairs with Luo Yuan midway through, his focus was consistently on the iron refining furnace. Earlier, proactively suggesting Xia Chuan extinguish the fire, he indeed forgot about the wooden mannequin, but more importantly, he knew that on a large tree outside the western side of the valley, there was a contingency set up by Xia Chuan in advance. That pillar of fire over 100 meters away, outside the western side of the valley, was a tree. The difference was that the tree was filled with small torches from the system. Ha ha ha, good. On the first floor, Xia Chuan, seeing the previously fierce cold beasts now surging toward the west like a tidal wave, laughed heartily, repeatedly chanting good 3 times, finally relaxing the nerves that had been tense for over an hour. 3 days ago, when the large number of cold beasts vanished, from the moment he sensed that the deceitful monster at the Mirror Immortal camp intended to use the cold beasts against them, Xia Chuan had already begun preparing. Given the current strength of Great Xia, it was entirely impossible to withstand a wave of the cold beast tide frontally. Stacking and thickening the perimeter with timber, reinforcing the wooden house with iron, relocating the green bamboo fence inside. Relying on these was equally fanciful. Driving away or redirecting the cold beast tide was the only feasible option. Just like with the previous rodent swarm on the northern slope rock face, strictly speaking, the method eventually used was also to drive them away, not confront them. It just so happened that at this time, Xia Chuan noticed a tree outside the western side of the valley, with a diameter of more than 5 meters. The Mirror Immortal camp created this cold beast tide chiefly to force them to extinguish the iron refining furnace's flames. Since that was the case, they might as well seize the opportunity to extinguish the iron refining furnace's fire, and simultaneously create another fire to lure the cold beasts away. Over 10,000 torches were used, nearly depleting half of the camp supply station stock. Chapter 290. Chapter 161. Who told you the furnace needs to be lit by someone, /3. This fire, it was truly worth it. The cold beasts have retreated, and next it should be. Bang! Xia Chuan had just put away his joy, his expression had just tightened, when a loud noise passed overhead. He looked up, and his expression froze instantly. Tangjiao, Snow Mane, Demon Sheep, Frost Wolf, 4 intermediate cold beasts, actually charged up from 4 directions, surrounding everyone in the main hall. I forgot, these 4 intermediate cold beasts are being controlled. Just now, Xia Chuan noticed that the moment the flames of the iron refining furnace were extinguished, the eyes of the 4 intermediate cold beasts clearly returned from that fluid white back to the normal blood-red color. At this moment, their eyes looked no different from normal cold beasts, yet these 4 intermediate cold beasts were not attracted by the flames outside the valley. They were just staring straight at everyone within the main hall. Shi Ping, light the fire. Around the wooden house, all the cold beasts that could move had retreated, heading towards the western tree full of torches. Lighting the iron refining furnace for a little while longer now shouldn't be a problem. As Xia Chuan shouted for Shi Ping to light the fire, worried that he might not understand his intention, he quickly rushed upstairs. The fire's out, trying to light it again won't be so easy. However, a wild voice suddenly rang out from upstairs. Xia Chuan's expression instantly froze, not just his, but also Luo Yuan, Yuan Cheng, Yue Feng, the Xia hunting team members, all their faces froze as well. Bang! Pud! Xiping's body fell from the third floor like a cannonball. The wooden house was already riddled with holes. Xia Chuan, who had just rushed up the stairs, caught him but found that the force was too much for him to handle, and his body was forced back 6 or 7 meters. Luo Yuan and others rushed to his side, helping him lift Xiping up, and upon seeing the footprint on Xiping's chest, they immediately realized that it was the person who just spoke who kicked him down. A group of earth-digging realm individuals on the second floor looked up towards the third floor. The rest had no reaction. Only the 17 members of the hunting team, including Xia Chuan, had their pupils constrict, their frozen faces as if they had seen a ghost. Standing by the iron refining furnace on the third floor were 2 people unexpectedly. They were He Meng and He Gang. The 17 members of the hunting team remembered very clearly. It was just on the 25th of last month. He Gang was cut into 2 halves by Xia Hong with 1 slash. He Meng was kicked in the abdomen by Xia Hong, and then beheaded with 1 more slash. Because it was revenge for the 8 logging realm individuals who were killed at the camp, the scene was quite satisfying at the time, with all 17 people remembering every detail clearly. 2 people who were surely as dead as could be actually appeared before their eyes. No, not just that. Under the night, He Meng's skin even radiated a faint sheen, combined with the force he felt when catching Xiping just now. Not only resurrected, but also broke through to the cold resistance level. Although they had previously heard from Xia Hong that the deceitful monster in the mirror immortal camp could resurrect the dead. But knowing and actually seeing are 2 different things. Xia Chuan and the hunting team members instantly felt a weight in their hearts. The rest of the great Xia's earth-digging realm people, even if they didn't know the specifics, could sense the hostility from He Meng's demeanor at this moment. "Brothers, you can all come out now," He Meng ordered towards the outside of the valley, and instantly, a large group of black-clad individuals wielding longbows and broadswords poured in through the already destroyed western ravine exit. Xia Chuan glanced back just for a moment, and immediately recognized many familiar faces in the front row, all people who had been killed by Xia Hong alongside He Meng. The wooden house had practically collapsed completely, with only the staircase structure in the center barely holding up, and almost everyone in the great Xia camp had gathered in the small area near the staircase in the main hall. Over 200 mirror immortal camp people instantly surrounded everyone, all raising longbows, knocking iron arrows, aiming at Xia Chuan and other earth-digging realms on the second floor, clearly aware that the only threatening force left in Great Xia was this group. The joy of the cold beast tide's retreat had not yet fully dissipated, and in less than tens of breaths, they were plunged into this deadly situation again. Whether it was Xia Chuan and the other earth-digging realms, the 500 logging realms, or those huddled together on the third floor, those children, despair flashed in their eyes. "Rest assured we won't kill you, but..." He Meng wore a cruel smile, turned his gaze from those children, stared at Xia Chuan and them for a moment, then furrowed his brow. "Where is that bastard of a leader of yours? Tell him to come out. If he obediently accepts death today, we won't kill anyone else in Great Xia camp. Not only won't we kill, but you'll all even become part of my mirror immortal camp in the future." No one answered He Meng. From the hunting team at the camp to the earth-digging realms to even the children on the third floor as young as 5 or 6, everyone just silently stared at He Meng. No one spoke, but their hate-filled eyes said it all. "Very good, very good. It seems you all are very loyal to that bastard, but unfortunately, today he became a coward and doesn't seem to care about you all." The reactions of the people made He Meng ironically laugh in anger, belittling Xia Hong at first, then turning to the nearest children, pulling out a dagger from his chest, and throwing it fiercely at a child glaring at him from the crowd. "Xia Hong, get out here." Chapter 291. Chapter 161, Who Told You That a Furnace Needs to Be Lit by Someone, /4. Swishing. Enter. Luo Yuan on the second floor saw the direction the dagger was flying, and his face was immediately filled with terror because the child glaring angrily at He Meng was his son, Luoan. He instinctively started running frantically upwards, but it was utterly futile. With He Meng's prowess, even a casually thrown dagger couldn't be outrun. In the ice abyss world, death was a constant companion to humanity. Nearly 6-year-old Luo and actually had a concept of death. Seeing the dagger flying towards him, though afraid, he instinctively shielded a younger child beside him with his body. Clang! In the nick of time, a cold glimmer suddenly flew from directly above the valley. It was a long sword, a sword all the people of Great Xia were immensely familiar with. A narrow, slender blade of 1.5 meters, descending vertically from the sky, with such exaggerated power and speed that it nearly left a trail of snow-white air current. The air current descended sharply, directly striking the dagger. The dagger was actually pinned directly to the floor by the sword tip. Considering the force with which the long sword descended, how could a mere floor block it? There was only one explanation: the person who threw the long sword used skill. He only needed to pin down the dagger. All the Great Xia people looked up towards the sky, their eyes full of hope. However, He Meng and his crew's reaction was different. Their faces showed slight tension as they looked up. Boom crack! After the long sword fell, a massive explosion followed. Above the valley, two intersecting mountain masses seemed to show signs of breaking, with countless rocks falling, as if on the verge of collapsing. A piercing wail came from above, and Xia Chuan and others initially looked puzzled. But upon noticing the worried expressions of He Meng and his crew, they quickly reacted, their hearts immediately filled with excitement. Your strength, how could? After the wail, a trembling voice spoke, clearly having discovered something unbelievable, filled with terror and dread. Didn't you intentionally come to the valley to tell me about the combat body? Lower, intermediate, upper, take a look. Which rank does my combat body belong to? Xia Hong's voice came from above, and the entire Great Xia camp below was suddenly filled with wild joy and excitement. Everyone looked up, eyes glinting with anticipation. Bam! Another sound of air exploding rang out. A white figure like a cannonball was smashed down from above the valley. The person crashed directly into the northern stone wall of the valley, penetrating 3 or 4 meters in. The stones blasting out could perforate the ground, evidencing the terrifying force the person just endured. Though the explosive dust in the air completely obscured the scene above, the Great Xia people below continued to watch with fervent anticipation. In their line of sight, a right leg first penetrated the dust. Then Xia Hong in a black cloak, panting heavily, broke through the dust, falling directly from hundreds of meters in the sky. Bam! Big brother! Leader! Leader, are you okay? The moment everyone clearly saw Xia Hong, their expectations vanished, leaving only worry and horror. Especially Xia Chuan, who couldn't help but directly rush towards Xia Hong. Xia Hong's black cloak was already tattered beyond recognition, his whole body almost soaked with blood. The exposed left arm was filled with countless fine cracks, resembling shattered pottery or cracked dry earth, with the exposed crimson blood amidst the cracks appearing extraordinarily pronounced and terribly frightening. There were 2 wounds on his left face, and a dozen or so blood holes on his chest, all seeping blood outward. Even on his thigh, there was a large piece of flesh turned outwards. I'm fine. Despite his severe injuries, Xia Hong still turned to the crowd, giving Xia Chuan and others an approving look, before forcing himself to suppress his injuries and turning to gaze at the position of the stone wall. Hee ha ha, discovered. So what if you've discovered, can the fire in your furnace be ignited again? You all must die, must die. The man in white flew out from the stone wall, without caring about Xia Hong below, but instead leaped directly to the furnace on the 3rd floor. Brothers kill. The moment the man in white flew out, He Meng and He Gang's worries disappeared, replaced with a ruthless look, commanding the 200-odd mirror immortal camp members on the perimeter to charge. 4 intermediate cold beasts, glaring fiercely, began to move at this time. Who told you my furnace needs someone to ignite it? With Xia Hong's rhetorical question, both the man in white, He Meng, He Gang, and the more than 200 mirror immortal camp members, even the 4 intermediate cold beasts, were all momentarily stunned. Fizzle, fizzle, fizzle. The sound of a flame burning, though extremely subtle, caused the bodies of the man in white, He Meng, and He Gang to tremble violently. The previously extinguished iron refining furnace suddenly reignited out of nowhere. A warmth rapidly spread over 100 meters. The firelight instantly enveloped the man in white, He Meng, He Gang, the 4 intermediate cold beasts, and the more than 200 mirror immortal camp members. Allah! The more than 200 Mirror Immortal camp members on the perimeter were the first to let out terrified screams, their eyes instantly transforming into silvery white liquid form, and as the exposure to the firelight grew longer, silver liquid began to flow out. Following that, the 4 intermediate cold beasts also showed signs of distress. Then He Meng and He Gang. Finally, even the expression of the man in white began to twist as his eyes underwent the same transformation. Chapter 292, Chapter 162, Once and for All Victory. The iron refining furnace, a building in the system, could always be ignited or extinguished at Xia Hong's will. Luo Yuan, Zhao Long, and those who recently joined Great Xia might not be aware. But Xia Chuan, Yuan Cheng, Yue Feng, and the earliest group of people in Great Xia knew. The initial version of the iron refining furnace was a small campfire. The first time they dealt with the wood puppet monster in the cave, Xia Hong summoned the fire in front of them out of thin air. Big Brother didn't show up earlier, could it be for this moment? Although Xia Chuan had some vague suspicions, seeing the terrifying injuries on Xia Hong, he immediately knew it wasn't entirely so. Xia Hong had obviously been fighting with this person in white for a long time. No, not some person in white, but Gao Yu. Or rather, it should be He Yuanhun. As the furnace's flames rose, all of Great Xia, including Xia Chuan, saw the face of the person in white by the furnace. That person in white was, shockingly, Gao Yu, who came temporarily to stay in the valley on the 25th last month. At this moment, although Gao Yu's appearance hadn't changed, his face no longer held the previous calm and gentleness, only fierceness and brutality. A black aura swirled around his body, matched with those silver-white pupils and the 7 or 8 slender knife cuts beside his eyes, giving him an intensely evil aura. The effect that the furnace had on the people of the Mirror Immortal camp was clearly different. The more than 200 earth-digging realm at the perimeter reacted most violently, wailing horrifically while silver-white liquid flowed incessantly from their eyes. The 4 intermediate cold beasts did not howl but showed signs of pain. Then there were He Gang and He Meng, who had broken through to the cold resistance level, and compared to them, He Gang, who was weaker, reacted more strongly. And the person in white, He Yuanhun, only showed a twisted expression, the pain on his face far less than that of the others, as he stared down fiercely at Xia Hong on the ground, his eyes full of venomous resentment. The stronger the power, the less affected they were. The eyes are their weakness, use solidified fire oil. As the furnace ignited, and the Mirror Immortal deceitful monsters showed such pained reactions, Xia Hong took advantage of the opportunity and swiftly moved. He gave a loud command to others, then charged fiercely towards He Yuanhun on the 3rd floor, not forgetting to draw out Yi blade along the way. Xia Chuan quickly realized that the knife cuts around He Yuanhun's eyes were likely inflicted during a battle with Xia Hong just moments ago. Everyone take up bows and blades, use the solidified fire oil, aim for their eyes. Not only the earth-digging realm, but also the 500 logging realm in the camp and some older children, upon hearing Xia Chuan's command, all immediately began to take action. Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the earth-digging realm, who never left their bows and blades, quickly drew their bows, knocking arrows, aiming at the 200 earth-digging realm of the Mirror Immortal camp still immersed in pain. The target, of course, was their eyes. Whoosh and whoosh and whoosh. The best archer, Zhao Long, was the first to pierce someone's eye. The person's eye was already leaking a large amount of silver-white liquid, and the arrow, coated in solidified fire oil, pierced it. The pupil instantly emitted a dense smoke, and then flames suddenly ignited inside the skull, bursting into a scream more painful and intense than before. The flames swiftly spread. Within less than 5 seconds, the person's body was completely burned away, turning into black smoke and dissipating before everyone's eyes. Seeing this person consumed by the fire from the solidified fire oil, Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and everyone from the Great Xia camp were instantly filled with excitement. As long as there was a way to deal with it, it was no longer a problem. Run quickly. But at this moment, He Meng and He Gang on the 3rd floor charged towards them and shouted, signaling for those at the perimeter to escape. Though under control, they hadn't completely lost their minds, and their combat strength wasn't entirely gone. Xia Chuan just glanced back at He Meng and He Gang and concluded in his mind, then immediately told the others, "Ignore them, continue shooting these deceitful monsters." Bang! He Meng and He Gang, who were charging towards Xia Chuan and others, were suddenly knocked away by a huge dark horn. Roar! What blocked them was an intermediate thunder QE manifested from a wooden mannequin. With the resuming of the iron refining furnace's flames, the 5 wooden mannequins naturally revived as well. The other 4 wooden mannequins had already engaged the 4 intermediate cold beasts. Yimeng's face showed a hint of frenzy, wanting to rush down to help his scattered people below. But the thunder QE manifested by the wooden mannequin didn't give him a chance, blocking him and also He Gang. Even though both had broken through to the cold resistance level, facing an intermediate thunder QE, which specialized in defense, was still a bit challenging. The key was, due to the suppression of the furnace's flames, they couldn't exert their full strength, unlike the thunder QE from the wooden mannequin, which had stronger defense than a real thunder QE and could even ignore pain. Under such circumstances, the two, despite their anxiety, had no way to help. They could only keep striking the thunder QE, while watching their people below being shot down continuously by Xia Chuan and his group. Luo Yuan and the hunting team follow me down. The rest keep shooting. Don't let a single one escape. Kill them. Seeing the 200 men from the Mirror Immortal camp beginning to scatter and flee towards the western valley entrance, Xia Chuan's face showed a malicious look, pulled out his broadsword, shouted orders to the others, and then leaped down first. The 16 members of the hunting team followed him down as well. Chapter 293, Chapter 162, Once and for All Victory /2. The remaining 40-plus earth-digging realm individuals continued to shoot arrows, killing those who had already run far away. On the other side, Gao Yu had long since been forced to the south side of the valley by Xia Hong. The Yi blade slashed horizontally towards his pupils, and Yuanhun dodged sideways, barely avoiding the blade. Seeing the black grease smeared on the Yi blade, a look of horror flashed in his eyes, and he was filled with dread. He already guessed it was me. He didn't show up for so long earlier just to find me. The furnace could have been extinguished long ago. He deliberately kept it burning to deceive me, making me think this furnace had to be lit by someone. Bang! Yuanhun, both shocked and fearful, dodged the long blade, but his chest was struck by Xia Hong's relentless punch. The terrifying force caused his chest to cave in instantly, and he was once again flung like a cannonball into the southern side of the mountain. It should be known that this place isn't far from the southern iron ore cave, and the stones within the nearby mountains are much harder than elsewhere. Yet even so, Xia Hong's punch still drove him 7 or 8 meters deep into the mountain. He spat out a mouthful of reverse blood, raised his head to look at the relentless Xia Hong, and besides ferocity and anger in his eyes, there was even more intense fear. Everything tonight was originally within his plan. He controlled 4 intermediate cold beasts to launch this cold beast tide of 4 groups, assaulting the great Xia camp to force them to extinguish the iron refining furnace's fire. With the size of this cold beast tide, he was well aware it was unlikely to destroy Great Xia. But forcing the other side to extinguish the fire wasn't difficult. Once achieving this step, he could easily crush Great Xia with his over 200 men. Everything went smoothly. Even half an hour ago, when he was hiding over the valley observing the situation below and was discovered by Xia Hong, he still felt victory was within his grasp. It wasn't until Xia Hong revealed strength greater than his own that he began to sense something was wrong, but by then, the fire was extinguished. At the moment the fire was out, he truly felt he had won. Who knew Xia Hong would give him such an unexpected surprise? The fire in the furnace didn't need anyone to light it at all. Xia Hong could control it freely. I was just about to break through the cold resistance level when someone came to camp to teach me, telling me about the combat body. How could there be such a coincidence in the world? Creating such a huge cold beast tide just to make me extinguish the fire. You really schemed painstakingly. It's just a pity. What Xia Hong spoke lightly of, in reality, he only completely confirmed half an hour ago when he detected the large-scale invasion of Mirror Immortal camp people, that Yuanhun was indeed Gao Yu. Before the cold beast tide arrived, Xia Hong had already successfully broken through and awakened. He chose to stay behind the scenes, remaining unseen to eliminate the deceitful monster behind the Mirror Immortal camp once and for all. Initially, he hadn't connected these matters with Gao Yu. But half an hour ago, while searching for the deceitful monster around the valley, he discovered signs of a large-scale invasion by Mirror Immortal camp men. Thus, many things suddenly became clear. This cold beast tide was definitely orchestrated by the deceitful monster of the Mirror Immortal camp. Yet, logically speaking, with more than 500 cold beasts, how could a mere Great Xia camp hold up? The deceitful monster didn't even need to bring people over, just wait for the cold beasts to massacre everyone in Great Xia. But it still brought people over. The reason is simple, because that deceitful monster knew that this cold beast tide alone couldn't destroy Great Xia. Or rather, the purpose of creating this cold beast tide wasn't to destroy Great Xia at all. The deceitful monster of Mirror Immortal camp confirmed that the cold beast tide wouldn't destroy Great Xia. This in itself raised a huge doubt. Before Xia Hong broke through to the cold resistance level, Great Xia's true reliance was actually those 5 wooden mannequins, something extremely secretive not known by everyone within Great Xia camp. How did the deceitful monster of Mirror Immortal camp know? Combining this with the cold beast tide deliberately set to happen just before nightfall, it was clearly a setup for the subsequent entrance of Mirror Immortal camp people. In open strength, Mirror Immortal camp was far stronger than Great Xia by several times. Yet they dared not brazenly invade at night, clearly knowing the cold beast tide couldn't destroy Great Xia and still scheming so meticulously. Besides using the cold beast tide to force them to extinguish the fire, what other reason could there be? In other words, the deceitful monster of Mirror Immortal camp wasn't just afraid of the fire of the iron refining furnace. It also knew about the wooden mannequins and clearly understood the iron refining furnace's strong attraction to cold beasts. Throughout this period, the only one who visited Great Xia came into contact with the iron refining furnace and might know about the wooden mannequins was the person claiming to be Gao Yu from Shenwu village east of Twin Dragon Mountain. In Mirror Immortal camp, the only one who hadn't shown up yet was that great leader He Yuanhun, the deceitful monster capable of reviving people like He Meng, and He Gang was highly likely him. If so, then Gao Yu, or He Yuanhun, was the deceitful monster behind Mirror Immortal camp. After confirming this, Xia Hong still didn't rush to come out. His target was always the deceitful monster. With marker stones in place, Xia Hong could use the system to sense any external life entering within a kilometer around the valley. Half an hour ago, upon detecting the 200-plus men from Mirror Immortal camp, he was already watching from the shadows. Unfortunately, finding that all 271 of them were earth-digging realm, Xia Hong immediately realized that the deceitful monster was still hiding in the dark, not showing itself. Chapter 294, Chapter 162, Once and for All Victory /3. At this moment, Shiping extinguished the fire of the iron refining furnace, and all the low-level cold beasts were drawn to the large fire outside the western side of the valley and ran out. Only the 4 intermediate cold beasts remained unmoved. Additionally, He Meng and He Gang appeared at this time. These 2 events made Xia Hong completely certain that the deceitful monster was definitely nearby the valley. Everything within the valley was clearly visible to him, so as soon as the fire of the iron refining furnace went out, he immediately notified He Gang and He Meng to lead people into the valley. Those 4 intermediate cold beasts not only endured the fire of the iron refining furnace for such a long time, but also defied logic by not being attracted by the torches outside the valley. This meant that from start to finish, the 4 intermediate cold beasts were controlled. But even after confirming it was near the valley, Xia Hong was still puzzled. The marker stone could clearly sense any foreign being within a kilometer radius stationed there, and since He Gang and He Meng's men could be detected, this deceitful monster could naturally be as well. The base being in the valley meant the 1-kilometer radius was merely a small area around Redwood Ridge, and Xia Hong searched it 2 or 3 times but found nothing. At his most anxious moments, he was even ready to reveal himself directly. He had always been concerned about the casualties at the camp. He had seen all that Xia Chuan had done. The rest of the camp working together to reach this point far exceeded his expectations. If finding the deceitful monster caused too many casualties, it would not be worth the cost. Just when he was about to give up, he unintentionally glanced up at the top of the valley, where the north and south mountain bodies intersected. It suddenly dawned on him that he had overlooked the most crucial spot. The marker stone's detection range of 1 kilometer includes the air and the ground below, but the intersection of the 2 mountains at the top of the valley is over 2,000 meters high. Sure enough, after Xia Hong quietly climbed up, he found Gao Yu dressed in white with silver glowing eyes. The ambush succeeded, but he paid a price. The wound on his left cheek, the crack in his left arm, and more than 10 bloody holes in his chest were exchanged for the knowledge that the deceitful monster's weak point was its eyes. Or rather, the creature's ability was closely related to its eyes. Xia Hong's moment of astonishment was fleeting. Gao Yu, who had been kicked into the mountain body by him, was buried by the dust shaken by the mountain. Seeing Gao Yu remain silent for a long time, Xia Hong's expression tensed slightly. Holding the Yi blade, he cautiously approached the mountain mass, just as he was about to step into the dust cloud. Swoosh! A streak of silvery mirror light suddenly pierced through the smoke, hurtling towards his face. Xia Hong's expression changed in shock, as he leapt back, hurriedly raising his blade to block. Ting! The mirror light struck the Yi blade, producing only a ting sound. But in the next second, the Yi blade made of iron ore cracked like shattered mirror glass, with the fissures continuously expanding. Crack, drag, drag. 3 seconds later, the Yi blade, which had fought alongside Xia Hong for a long time, unexpectedly fractured with a crash, turning into debris that fell directly to the ground. Xia Hong discarded the hilt in his hand, glanced at his own left arm with the crack, and his expression was grave, yet with a hint of relief. The same move the second time won't work. The first hit on the mountaintop was essentially due to ignorance. This deceitful monster's strength, after all, was still inferior to his. Big brother, catch the blade. Just as Xia Hong lost the Yi blade, Xia Chuan, by the side of the wooden house, noticed it. With a loud shout, he tossed a long knife towards him. Xia Hong raised his hand to catch it, seeing the slender silver-white Yi blade in his hand, noticing the 100-forged pattern on the blade. His pupils instantly showed a hint of joy. Leader, I also have more. Mu Dong also tossed over 2 items. Xia Hong likewise reached out to catch them. It was an iron core bow and a quiver of iron arrows. The iron core bow also had a 100-forged pattern beside it, and the bowstring was translucent with a touch of white. Xia Hong immediately recognized that the translucent part was made of intermediate Tang Jiao tendon, while the white part consisted of strands. If he recalled correctly, it came from the time they killed He Meng. Including the quiver of iron arrows, each one had a 100-forged pattern on it. Xia Chuan, surprisingly, led people to forge 300 forged weapons for him. It's just the tension of the bowstring. Big brother, that bowstring is made with Tang Jiao tendon and white silk intertwined, capable of bearing a tension of 100,000 jin. Upon hearing Xia Chuan's words, Xia Hong hesitated no longer, immediately drawing the bow and knocking an arrow aimed at Gao Yu, who had just emerged from the dust, shooting an arrow towards him. Gao Yu, who was fleeing towards the western side of the valley, was shot in the right eye, letting out a shriek. The immense force caused his body to be flung over 10 meters to the left. Yet that's not all. Crucially, his right eye burst into flames. Having emerged, escaping now won't be that simple. The moment Xia Hong touched the iron arrow, he knew the arrowheads had been pre-applied with solidified fire oil. After a cold sneer, he drew his blade and charged straight at Gao Yu. Leader, you escape first, we'll hold him off. Unfortunately, before he could reach Gao Yu, He Gang and He Meng, who had just tried to break through to Thunder Kui to save people, abandoned Thunder Kui and directly changed direction to block Xia Hong's way. Brothers, we can't let the leader get hurt. If the leader survives, the Mirror Immortal survives. We won't die either. Not even only He Gang and He Meng. Someone shouted loudly, and the earth-digging realm from the Mirror Immortal camp being chased by Xia Chuan, and others also gave up fleeing and rushed to Gao Yu's side. Protect the leader, brothers. If the leader lives, the Mirror Immortal lives. We vow to protect the leader to the death. Mirror Immortals, unafraid of death. As long as the leader lives, we live eternally. Fight the great Xia kill. Even many who had escaped the valley returned at this time. Seeing the masses fervently rushing towards him, still yelling about defending the leader, Xia Hong's face showed no emotion and was unlike his previous appreciation. His eyes harbored only coldness and intense killing intent. Stubborn fools, from the moment I emerged, the Mirror Immortal camp was no longer necessary. Xia Hong took a light breath, raised the new Yi blade he had just obtained, turned to Xia Chuan and others charging towards him, and waved gently. I'm enough by myself. Noticing on the other side that Gao Yu was already fleeing towards the western side of the valley, a gleam of dark light flashed in Xia Hong's eyes, and he paid it no heed. Chapter 295, Chapter 163, almost annihilated the mystery of Gao Yu. The iron refining furnace's suppression on the deceitful monsters at the Mirror Immortal camp was very apparent. This could be seen from the 4 intermediate cold beasts. The head of the intermediate Teng Jiao to the east was firmly pressed to the ground by the thunder QE manifested by the wooden mannequin. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't move. The other 3 intermediate cold beasts were the same. All of them were held down by the wooden mannequin with no chance to retaliate. Especially after He Yunhan fled, these 4 intermediate cold beasts seemed soulless, their eyes continuously oozing silvery white liquid, and before long they were killed by the wooden mannequin. For 4 intermediate cold beasts to end up like this, He Gang, He Meng, and the 270 earth-digging realm ones following He Yunhan were even less likely to pose a threat. During the process of driving away He Yunhan, Xia Chuan and his team had already killed a considerable number of people. Thus, only about 100 were truly charging towards Xia Hong. And among these 100 or so, their eyes were leaking silver liquid. Despite their high spirits in trying to cover He Yunhan's escape, due to the suppressive power of the iron refining furnace's light, their faces still showed intense pain. Swoosh! Xia Hong gripped the Yi blade, charging headlong into the crowd of over 100 people, like an arrow leaving the bowstring, reaching the pinnacle of speed. So fast was his movement that the blade glint he left in his wake almost solidified, and wherever it passed, head and body separated countless times. Pukai Pukai! Slashing dozens of people in front of him wasn't enough. Xia Hong plunged directly into the throng, rapidly swinging his 1.5-meter-long blade. Each strike claimed a life. The blade light his long blade created flickered in the night sky, accompanied by splattering blood and dismembered limbs, making the scene extremely gory. Many strikes even pierced or slashed at their eyes, and clusters of flames suddenly erupted within the crowd. The leader has run, disperse and escape, He Gang, block him with me. He Meng, despite everything, still cared about his own, and upon seeing He Yunhan successfully escape, he immediately signaled the others to flee, whilst he, along with He Gang, continued towards Xia Hong, trying to buy time for others. In this short span, over 100 people at the Mirror Immortal camp had been reduced to just 30 or 40 by Xia Hong. Seeing this group disperse and flee, Xia Hong didn't pursue, merely gesturing to Xia Chuan and the others, then turning to face the oncoming He Meng and He Gang, his gaze sharpening. Didn't you just say you make me die submissively? He Meng and He Gang, eyeing Xia Hong, had expressions twisted in utmost ferocity. Being on the verge of victory tonight, yet failing, delivered a massive blow to them, in turn elevating their hatred towards Xia Hong to an all-time high. Their silver-white pupils nearly melted, even starting to smoke black, possibly aware they couldn't withstand the iron refining furnace's light any longer, exchanged glances with gritted teeth, and suddenly He Meng lagged behind, allowing He Gang to charge first. Die! He Gang, who reached first, raised his saber high and hacked down on Xia Hong's head with a hysterical slash. However, confronted with such a crazed strike, Xia Hong merely lifted the Yi blade casually to block. Clang! He Gang felt as if his strike was blocked by a wall of copper and iron. His hands trembled uncontrollably, the saber flew from his grip, and his chest's chi and blood surged uncontrollably, as if the force exerted rebounded entirely. He stared at Xia Hong, his face instantly overwhelmed by horror. Xia Hong had defeated He Yunhan. He had already seen it earlier. The leader, He Yunhan, possessed nearly 3 main power. After his resurrection, although he achieved cold resistance level strength, his power at most exceeded 1 main, about 120,000 jin, combined with suppression from the iron refining furnace. Killing Xia Hong was never hopeful. This strike, he never intended for it to kill Xia Hong. Yet being so effortlessly blocked was beyond his expectations. Xia Hong's power surpassed all their imaginations. Big brother, run, don't come over, run. Realizing his situation, He Gang gritted his teeth and shouted urgently at He Meng charging from behind, then abruptly lunged forward, grasping Xia Hong's shoulder tightly. Running now, it's too late. Their actions, He Gang and He Meng, didn't escape Xia Hong's eyes. Their initial plan likely was for He Gang to restrain him first, and He Meng behind was the true killer move. Realizing Xia Hong's overwhelming power, He Gang immediately changed his strategy, signaling He Meng to flee. He Yuanhun's escape was something he deliberately let happen. These two, whose power merely reached cold resistance level, how could they escape his grasp? As Xia Hong's words fell, he only nudged his shoulder forward. Crack! Thinking his grip firm to create an escape opportunity for He Meng and the others, He Gang was instantly knocked back over 10 meters away. His arms, as if struck heavily, bent backwards at an exaggerated angle, along with his body smashed into the stone wall behind, unable to even utter a scream before perishing. Merely just a shoulder forward. And the person died. Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, Yuan Cheng, and the hunting team as well as everyone from Great Xia were instantly dumbstruck. He Yuanhun's strength was substantial. Seeing Xia Hong fight him, everyone noted Xia Hong's increased strength from the aftermath. Yet due to He Yuanhun's reactions not being overly intense, they couldn't gauge how much stronger he had become. Chapter 296, Chapter 163, Almost Annihilated, The Mystery of Gao Yu /2. Xia Hong's massacre of the earth-digging realm at the Mirror Immortal camp did not shock them. After all, Xia Hong had done this once before. But He Gang was different. He had fought with that intermediate cold beast, with a strength only slightly inferior to He Meng. Everyone knew he was a genuine cold resistance level strongman. Even if his strength was suppressed by the iron refining furnace, his basic strength was far beyond what they could compare. Yet such a person couldn't even withstand a single move from Xia Hong. Until then, everyone in Great Xia realized how terrifying Xia Hong's strength was after emerging from seclusion. Realizing this, excitement filled everyone's hearts as they looked at Xia Hong with faces full of reverence and fervor. Even the children were no exception. In contrast to everyone's reaction in Great Xia, He Meng was completely bewildered. From hearing He Gang telling him to run quickly to seeing He Gang killed, it all happened in just 2 breaths. After all, Xia Hong hadn't even drawn his blade, only bumped with his shoulder. In 2 breaths, he couldn't even turn to run away. He was still bewildered as to why He Gang told him to flee. Of course, with He Gang being killed in 1 blow, this confusion was resolved. Xia Hong's strength was unexpectedly at such a level. Run! Snapping out of his daze, this word was all He Meng had left in his mind. Too bad it was already too late. Xia Hong didn't even pursue him. After knocking He Gang away, he merely turned his head to look at him. Wielding the Yi blade like a long spear, he hurled it fiercely. Swoosh! The Yi blade flew through the air, trailing a sharp cold edge in the night, piercing straight into the back of He Meng's head, then coming out from his left eye. Nailed to the western mountain wall by the Yi blade, He Meng let out a scream before his head suddenly burst into flames, and within moments it was burned to black smoke, completely dissipating into the valley. A shoulder bump, a toss of the Yi blade, and 2 cold resistance levels died just like that. Since when did cold resistance levels become so worthless? Gulp! Xia Chuan and all the earth-digging realm from Great Xia couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. In the crowd, young Luo stood by his father Luo Yuan, clutching his small fist tightly, full of excitement, and his eyes were filled with fervor and admiration as he looked at Xia Hong. Earlier, when He Meng wanted to kill him, he also threw a dagger at him. Thinking that He Meng also felt the same despair he had just experienced, Luo was somewhat relieved, but more importantly, a thirst for strength grew in his heart. Father, I want to become as strong as the leader in the future. Hearing his son's tender yet firm voice, Luo Yuan patted him on the head, his eyes also full of hope, and said softly, "There will be such a day." With He Gang and He Meng dead, the remaining people at the Mirror Immortal camp naturally posed no threat. Without the need for Xia Chuan and others to take action, Xia Hong used the 100-stone iron embryo bow given to him by Mu Dong, firing dozens of iron arrows in succession, hitting all the remaining enemies with precision, and all hitting fatal spots like the eyes. Screams echoed continuously, and as more than 30 fireballs blazed up, all the earth-digging realm dispatched from the Mirror Immortal camp tonight, along with the 4 intermediate cold beasts, were completely annihilated, except for He Yuanhun, who escaped. Big brother. Leader. Leader. Xia Hong walked slowly toward everyone, first reaching out to pat Xia Chuan on the shoulder, then turning to look at the others. Luo Yuan, Yuan Cheng, and other members of the hunting team. all the recently breakthrough earth-digging realm. The over 500 logging realm individuals who were just barely holding on the first floor, including Lin Wan, Shi Lu, and other logging realm women who had been resolutely protecting the children. And all the children who behaved themselves tonight, not causing any trouble for the camp. Xia Hong glanced around at everyone in the camp, finally resting his gaze on Luo Yuan's son, Luo En, his eyes showing a touch of emotion, and after standing silently for a long time, he finally spoke slowly. The matter of Mirror Immortal Camp is completely over, Mu Dong. Gather people to tidy up the camp. Xia Chuan and all other earth-digging realm, prepare to go to the Mirror Immortal Camp base with me. Upon hearing Xia Hong's words, a hint of surprise appeared on everyone's faces. They thought tonight's affair had already come to an end here. Xia Hong still intended to take people to the Mirror Immortal Camp's base. This was a real plan to permanently resolve the trouble of the Mirror Immortal Camp. All earth-digging realm hurry to pack up, gather at the mouth of the valley. With enthusiasm filling their hearts, Xia Chuan, who was the first to react, had already begun calling all earth-digging realm people to prepare. At Xia Chuan's words, all the earth-digging realm, including members of the hunting team like Luo Yuan, immediately moved upon hearing, returning to the log cabins, ruins to prepare. Seeing this scene, Xia Hong's expression shifted slightly. The most outstanding performance in this disaster, one could say, was Xia Chuan, leading the camp's people through meticulous planning and preparation in the early stages. Calm under pressure during the cold beast tide. Step-by-step tactical command and response. Especially in the end, the great fire on the west side of the valley that drove all the cold beasts away. He had been secretly observing throughout the night, with countless instances where he wanted to directly step out and resolve the crisis for the camp, but Xia Chuan kept surprising him. Even Xia Hong didn't expect him to lead everyone to accomplish this. No, Xia Hong introspected that under the same strength level, even he might not perform as well as Xia Chuan if he was in his place. The person who performed the best naturally received visible benefits. If before tonight, Xia Chuan's high status in everyone's mind in Great Xia was largely due to his relationship with him as the leader's brother. Chapter 297, Chapter 163, almost annihilated the mystery of Gao Yu. After tonight, everything will be completely different. Xia Chuan has already used his own abilities to tell everyone in the camp why, in the absence of Xia Hong, he is the one in charge. Why many of the camp's affairs are actually managed by him. Why his position in the camp is second only to the leader, Xia Hong. It seems that as this hands-off manager, I can take things a little easier in the future. The elevation of Xia Chuan's status in the eyes of everyone is something Xia Hong is happy to see. Being able to spare time for training is one thing, but most crucially, the reliance of Great Xia on him is not as severe. If everything has to rely on him as the leader, then Great Xia has no future. No matter how strong the systematic structures are, it still needs people to use them. No matter how capable he is, there will always be things he cannot accomplish. Taking a huge step back, tonight he woke up, but what if he didn't, or if he wasn't at the camp? Would the people here just sit and wait for death? The main reason Xia Hong endured for so long without showing up tonight, of course, was because the casualties were not significant and were within his acceptable range. Secondly, it was to find out He Yuanhun, and this goal was successfully achieved. Lastly, it also served as a test for Xia Hong to the camp. He wanted to see, after more than half a year of integrated development, how much the Great Xia Camp's over 1,000 people had grown and what they could achieve. From the moment he broke through to the cold resistance level and realized his own strength, Xia Hong understood that as long as the situation with the deceitful monster was clarified, the Mirror Immortal Camp was no longer a threat, but rather another opportunity for the development of Great Xia. With that being the case, why not use this crisis as a test and enjoy the benefits? Not only Xia Chuan, but also the hunting team, the earth-digging realm, the logging realm, and even the children in the camp, all their performances far exceeded his expectations. This is also why after Xia Hong finished killing, he looked at everyone with eyes full of emotion. "Leader, everything is ready, shall we set off now?" Xia Hong sat alone at the mouth of the valley, and upon hearing Xia Chuan's voice, he turned around to find that only Xia Chuan had walked over. "What, afraid?" Xia Chuan shook his head and said, "Of course not, brother, your wounds." Xia Hong revealed a smile on his face and directly opened his cloak to show his chest. The more than 10 bloody holes on his chest had already healed and scabbed in such a short time. Not only that, Xia Hong also wiped the bloodstains off his left face. Xia Chuan then realized that the 2 wounds on his face had also scabbed over and healed. My skin healing speed is much faster than the average cold resistance level. The only injury He Yuanhun inflicted on me is here. Xia Hong revealed his left arm, where the fine cracks had significantly decreased. To heal this injury, the light of the iron refining furnace's fire was needed, and it has just about healed now. It doesn't affect my strength. Let's go straight to the Mirror Immortal camp. He Yuanhun has been injured by me. He should have returned if nothing unexpected happens. Hearing Xia Hong say that he was fine, Xia Chuan looked relieved. But soon he furrowed his brow again and said to Xia Hong, "Brother, if He Yuanhun is actually Gao Yu, then why wasn't he afraid of the iron refining furnace during his last visit to the camp? And he said a lot of things that seemed true, right?" A hint of doubt and confusion rose in Xia Hong's eyes as well. This question up to now he hasn't figured out. From what we can see currently, aside from his background, almost everything He Yuanhun said during his last visit to the camp was true. He Yuanhun said then that the deceitful monster could simultaneously control multiple cold beasts, and that its eyes could emit evil light, shattering human bodies. These 2 points alone matched up with him exactly. In fact, if it weren't for He Yuanhun's prior warning, Xia Hong's battle with him tonight might not have gone so smoothly. But why? Why did he proactively reveal his abilities to me beforehand? The most crucial part is why He Yuanhun was not at all afraid of the iron refining furnace's fire when he visited Great Xia last time. Xia Hong saw clearly that not only did he walk to the furnace, but he even reached out to touch it. The torch and solidified fire oil, being derivatives of the iron refining furnace, only react when in contact with the eyes, but the furnace is different. Just as he descended into the earth-digging realm of the Mirror Immortal camp, from the 4 intermediate cold beasts to He Yuanhun himself, their eye areas reacted when covered by the furnace's firelight. But why was there no reaction that time? Don't think too much about it. He Yuanhun is already at his wit's end. We'll find out when we get there. Tonight marks the end of the Mirror Immortal camp. Unable to figure it out, Xia Hong doesn't dwell on it further, and simply signals Xia Chuan to gather the others to set off immediately to find the Mirror Immortal encampment. Chapter 298, Chapter 164, The World in the Mirror, Immortal and Indestructible. Mirror Immortal Station. A bustling crowd gathered at the edge of the 3-story bamboo building. The leader just returned. Why did only the leader come back alone? Where are He Gang, He Meng, and the others? My father didn't return. My husband didn't return either. The leader seems to be seriously injured. Did something happen? Everyone's faces were filled with panic, but there were guards at the door, and they couldn't go inside, so they could only stand outside anxiously. At the front of the crowd, Yuan Dao, along with 4 elders of the earth-digging realm, was surrounded by a group of people, also waiting with anxious expressions. A middle-aged man quickly squeezed his way to Yuan Dao from the back, shook his head gravely, and whispered to him. Only the leader returned, no one else, not even the second leader. I've waited for a long time at the agreed place and saw no one. It must be. Father, something must have happened. This thought flashed through his mind, and Yuan Dao's expression became instantly gloomy. When the leader returned, black smoke was coming from his face, and he was heavily injured. Many people saw it. Tonight there should have been a defeat. He Meng, He Gang, and the others probably couldn't escape. Could the second leader also be? Impossible. Father said he was only going over to take a look. He wouldn't interfere. Han Guang's words were immediately interrupted by Yuan Dao. His father, Yuan, who he knew well, would not do something unwise. With so many people like He Meng and He Gang unable to escape back, seeing He Yuanhun return in such a sorry state, the power of the Great Xia must far exceed what they had imagined. In that case, Yuan who secretly followed, would be even less likely to take action. 4 intermediate, more than 500 low-level cold beasts, such a massive beast tide, coupled with 2 cold resistance levels, He Meng, He Gang, 271 earth-digging realm warriors, and even the leader personally leading, yet they were utterly defeated. Just how strong is Great Xia? Thinking about this, a flash of horror crossed Yuan Dao's heart. Indeed, the specific deployment to besiege Great Xia by He Yuanhun he already knew. The 4 intermediate cold beasts were personally captured by Yuan Hu and then handed over to He Yuanhun. No one knows what method He Yuanhun used to not only control them, but also to gather a large number of their kind, the low-level cold beasts. Upon hearing He Yuanhun talk about attacking Great Xia and not allowing them, or the other 41 earth-digging realm at the camp who hadn't paid respects to Mirror Immortal, to participate, the father and son were filled with confusion. Learned that He Yuanhun intended to use a beast tide to deal with Great Xia. On one hand, they felt a deep discomfort. On the other hand, their confusion intensified. The discomfort stemmed from the fact that cold beasts, like deceitful monsters, are natural enemies of humans. Using cold beasts against Great Xia, who are also humans, felt inherently repulsive to them. And the intensifying confusion arose from 2 points. The first point naturally was, what method did He Yuanhun use to control those 4 intermediate cold beasts? The second point was why He Yuanhun would go to such great lengths to besiege a Great Xia camp. After all, under normal circumstances, the power of Great Xia was incomparable to the Mirror Immortal camp. He personally acted, with He Gang and He Meng, 2 cold resistance levels, plus 271 earth-digging realm warriors. Such a luxurious lineup, from what they understood of Great Xia, even if their power tripled, it might not be able to hold. No matter how you look at it, there shouldn't be any need to create a beast tide additionally. Of course, the second point of confusion had already been resolved at this moment. The strength of Great Xia truly exceeded everyone's expectations. So many people went over, yet only He Yuanhun managed to escape back. And even then, he was severely injured when he escaped. It's not just about dealing with the beast tide. He Meng, He Gang, and those 271 earth-digging realm warriors were all left behind. No, even if Xia Hong's strength already surpassed the leader, relying on him alone, it's impossible to achieve this. Yuan Dao looked up at the bamboo building, his brows furrowed tightly. The last time Yuan Hu led people to besiege Xia Hong, he was there too. He clearly knew how fast Xia Hong's strength improved. But no matter how strong his power, he is only one person. And the earth-digging realm of Great Xia altogether do not exceed 20 people. Even if this number were multiplied by 5 or even 10 times. Tonight's result should not have been like this. In the Great Xia Valley, there must be some terrifying ultimate weapon hidden. That's the only explanation. But what exactly is this ultimate weapon? Is it some formidable person? Impossible. The Great Xia Station has been watched by the Mirror Immortal camp for a long time, and it is impossible for such a formidable figure to suddenly appear. Lu He and the others have said that, for decades past Redwood Ridge, there's only been one medium-sized camp called Rog. Great Xia for many years was just a small endangered camp. If not a person, then what could it be? Yuan Hu, thoroughly investigate your people, and your leader He Yuanhun, in the future you will thank me. This sentence that Xia Hong said before suddenly flashed through Yuan Dao's mind. He looked up at the bamboo building, his eyes suddenly narrowed. He seemed to have faintly grasped something. The 3rd floor of the bamboo building, the partition behind the main hall. Na. He Yuanhun, dressed in white, lay on the ground convulsing and twitching all over, occasionally letting out low, suppressed roars and wails. His hands were tightly covering the slender knife wound beside his eyes, with black smoke continuously seeping out from between his fingers. He Yuanhun sat up suddenly, lifted his head, disheveled hair draping over his shoulders, his body still trembling and twitching, his silvery white pupils full of twisted hatred and venom. Chapter 299, Chapter 164, The World in the Mirror, Immortal /2. That Xia Hong's strength is actually so formidable. It's actually so formidable, how is it possible? He used so much beast blood and didn't die. Not sure if he was afraid of people outside hearing. He Yuanhun was full of unwillingness, yet he still tried hard to suppress his roar. His 2 silvery pupils, like 2 mirrors, slowly revealed a person after he let out a low growl. That person was actually He Yuanhun. However, the He Yuanhun in the pupils had a gentle face and appeared much calmer than the one outside. After appearing, he chuckled lightly and slowly spoke. You deliberately used my mouth to tell him about the combat body, luring him to reshape his skin with a large amount of beast blood in an instant, hoping to kill him, even willing to expose your own matters. Do you think I don't know? Oddly, once the He Yuanhun and the pupils spoke, the He Yuanhun outside moved his lips as well. Yet the voices of the two were completely different. The former was deep, resentful and sinister, full of evil. The latter was gentle like Jade, speaking leisurely, with a hint of calculated shrewdness, as if everything was under his control. Heh 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 heh, isn't this something we tacitly understand? I want to kill him, you want to use him against me, otherwise, why would I let you gain control of the body so smoothly? Now it seems I've won, he's broken through to the cold resistance level, and directly gained the 6 main power. His raw strength is already much stronger than yours, plus that black oily substance. You won't be able to fight him, mirror immortal. Shut up, heh heh heh, who wins or loses, it's not decided yet. Stop dreaming. That Xia Hong obviously let you return on purpose to kill you in front of the whole camp, to subdue the rest of the camp. Do you really think it was He Meng and the others who got you the chance to escape? Heh 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 heh. Hearing He Yuanhun's words, Mirror Immortal laughed a few times mockingly, his face still in pain, but his low voice carried bits of arrogance and pride. You think I don't know, you humans have always been scheming. Even at this point, you're still thinking about annexing the camp. He let me go on purpose, and was I returning to the camp on purpose too? He Yuanhun's gentle voice finally turned low at this moment. We had a contract before, you can't force others to become your believers. You ghastly things, violating the contract has serious consequences, doesn't it? Heh 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 heh, He Yuanhun, you don't even know, the allure of immortality to you humans is immense. Just watch, just watch. Mirror Immortal let out a twisted laugh, suddenly raising his hand sharply towards a corner of the room. A person was instantly drawn into his hand. It was none other than the second leader of the Mirror Immortal camp, Yuanhu. However, at this moment, Yuanhu's whole body was covered with cracks, his eyes were dull and lifeless, and he didn't respond at all when strangled by the Mirror Immortal, like a puppet without a soul. The moment Yuanhu appeared, the He Yuanhun and the pupils of Mirror Immortal's eyes immediately looked down, a trace of guilt appearing on his face. What's wrong? Are you feeling embarrassed? He Yuanhun, all these years to control me. Although you've handed the body over to me, you've actually kept part of the control. Some things seem like it's my doing, but in essence, you're involved too. Your sworn brother no longer trusts you. I helped you by killing him. You should be grateful to me. The Mirror Immortal's eyes suddenly shone brightly, illuminating Yuanhu's whole body. The cracks on Yuanhu's body began to heal rapidly. Moreover, the dullness in his eyes quickly disappeared, returning to normal. Big brother, are you okay? The restored Yuanhu saw the seriously injured He Yuanhun in front of him, immediately showed a worried look, and stepped forward to support him. Apparently, he no longer remembered being killed by He Yuanhun with his own hands back at Redwood Ridge. Second brother, the great Xia's strength is too strong. They will attack soon. I can't stop that Xia Hong, the people in the camp must. The moment Yuanhu was restored, the Mirror Immortal's expression returned to normal, and then he spoke slowly, explaining one thing to Yuanhu. A matter that to any ordinary person would sound bizarre and terrifying. Yet Yuanhu showed no abnormal expression, even nodding continuously in agreement. Everyone quiet down. Outside the bamboo building, all the people from Mirror Immortal camp were waiting anxiously when a voice suddenly sounded from the upper floor, and everyone immediately turned to look up. Seeing it was the second leader, Yuanhu, all the panic on everyone's faces immediately subsided a lot, and they became quiet. Amid the crowd, only Yuan Dao showed a continuously changing expression, from initial joy gradually turning to horror, even ending with a hint of sorrow. Not only Yuan Dao, but Han Guang and 4 others of the same age as Yuanhu, as well as 41 Earth-Digging Realm members from Yuanju camp, seemed to realize something, their bodies suddenly shuddering. They are the second leader, he. Don't speak yet, let's see what he has to say. Yuan Dao took a deep breath, suppressed the turmoil in his heart, and looked up at Yuanhu on the 3rd floor, with a glimmer of hope still flickering in his eyes. Tonight's action outcome, everyone must have guessed it. Yuanhu continued with a trace of sorrow on his face. It was a defeat. He Meng, He Gang, and 271 Earth-Digging Realm were all killed by the great Xia. Even the leader was severely injured by Xia Hong and is now in grave danger. Chapter 300, Chapter 164, The World in the Mirror Immortal /3. Below the bamboo building, the crowd was bustling, with faint noises still audible. The moment Yuan Hu finished speaking, the scene froze. Everyone looked up with mouths agape, and a deathly silence enveloped the area around the bamboo building. Many had already seen the sorry state in which Yunhan returned, so when Yuan Hu spoke, it confirmed what everyone suspected. It wasn't baseless. The problem is, suspecting and confirming are two entirely different things. Even Yuan Dao's pupils were trembling uncontrollably at the moment. He could, of course, be certain of tonight's crushing defeat. Yet he could only assume that He Meng, He Gang, and the others were likely left in the Great Xia. But just now, what did Yuan Hu say? He Gang, He Meng, and 271 from the earth-digging realm all perished. Before Yuan Dao could process his shock, the crowd below began to roar in anger one after another. Defeated, the Great Xia slaughtered all our people. Over 200 earth-digging realm fighters, all dead. Are those from the Great Xia coming to kill us next? Second leader, just tell us if the people from the Great Xia camp are about to attack. If so, we should get ready early and fight back. Even the leader couldn't stop them. How can we fight them? The Great Xia killed so many of us. Should we surrender? Second leader, first tell us, how's the leader? Hearing the crowd's roar, seeing the agitation around, Yuan Dao lowered his eyes, the expression on his face growing dark. Upon hearing about so many deaths, the crowd's first reaction wasn't sorrow. It was anger. Still, this wasn't the strangest part. Yuanhan was so severely injured, and nearly all the high-level fighters in the camp were wiped out. Anyone with normal sense would conclude that the Great Xia is very powerful. In such a situation, even if not sorrowful, at least some fear should be felt. No fear, no sorrow. Yuan Dao even noticed that among the crowd, the families of those 271 earth-digging realm fighters showed nothing but anger, not a trace of sadness. Such a reaction was clearly extremely abnormal. Not just Yuan Dao, but Han Guang standing beside him and some other veterans from the Yunju camp noticed it too. Unfortunately, all these individuals added up to merely 400 or 500, truly insignificant compared to the 2,000 or 3,000 gathered outside the bamboo building. But because Yuan Dao and over 40 others were the last remaining batch of earth-digging realm fighters in the camp, they were positioned very close to the bamboo building. He Gang, He Meng, 271 from the earth-digging realm all dead. Do you think, with just us, we have the qualifications to recklessly fight against the Great Xia? After posing this question, Yuan Hu glanced around the crowd, a flash of resolve in his eyes, and continued. There is only one way now, and that is to help the leader regain his strength. Only then do we have a slim chance to survive. Second leader, please speak directly. How should we help the leader? If the leader can recover, I'm willing to give up my life. Indeed, everything I have today I've received thanks to the leader. Whatever it takes to help him recover, I'll do it. One after another, the crowd fervently shouted, all pledging their loyalty. A scene that should have been moving instead made Yuan Dao's skin crawl. He could tell from their tone that they were genuinely willing to do anything for Yuanhan, including sacrificing their lives. Emotions reaching this point were actually still acceptable. As the camp's leader, Yuanhan held a high place in their hearts with considerable authority, so people willing to lay down their lives for him wasn't surprising. But the issue was, there wasn't even a hint of hesitation or fear in their tone. This was the eeriest thing in Yuan Dao's eyes at that moment. Regardless of loyalty, one cannot defy bodily instincts. The necessary emotions will inevitably manifest. Just now, when the crowd heard of Yuanhan's defeat tonight, with everyone dead, there was not a hint of fear or sorrow, only anger. Yuan Dao already sensed something was off. Now witnessing this scene, Yuan Dao was almost certain in his heart. The people who have worshipped the mirror immortal, they all have massive problems. And these problems are likely to erupt soon. All right, I'll speak clearly then. Yuan Hu drew his massive broadsword, pointing it to the sky, and spoke with fervor. The mirror world promised by the leader has already opened up to us. Abandon your physical body, and by letting your soul enter it, you can achieve eternal peace. No cold beast, no deceitful monster, no frost and snow, no endless slaughter and relentless battles. That is a new world that's 1,000 times better than the ice abyss. Food in abundance, clothes in plenty, endless warmth, everything one can desire. As Yuan Hu spoke, he even aligned the broadsword against his own neck. His voice was low yet carried a profound reverence, and upon hearing the description of the mirror world, everyone present below had an intense longing in their eyes. As long as we all go to the mirror world, we can help the leader quickly regain his strength, and after he deals with the great Xia camp, he can revive us anytime in the ice abyss, freely traveling between the realms. Towards the end of his speech, Yuan Hu's veins bulged on his face, and he abruptly looked upwards, with both pupils suddenly turning silver. SHH. Then he actually used the broadsword to slice across his own neck. Father, second leader. Yuan Dao was utterly terrified, yet he only uttered a single word before realizing something, and he immediately restrained his emotions by gritting his teeth, even motioning for the other uncles beside him to stay calm. Though his eyes were slightly reddened, Yuan Dao quickly turned around to glance at the others. What he saw left him momentarily stunned. Below the bamboo building, everyone was craning their necks, gazing at the sky. Their expressions were serene and peaceful, with faint smiles on their lips, as if seeing something incredibly beautiful up there. Mirror world, eternal life. Someone not far away uttered these 8 words softly, and just like Yuan Hu, pulled out a weapon and slit their own throat. Mirror world, eternal life. The second. Mirror world, eternal life. The third, the fourth, the fifth. As Yuan Dao withdrew his gaze from the empty sky, 100 to 200 people had already fallen below the bamboo building, and the pace of people collapsing was accelerating. This bizarre and horrific scene unfolded so quickly, leaving him, Han Guang, and the others with no time to react. Wake up, all of you, wake up. Go quickly and wake them up. Don't let them continue dying, hurry. Uncle Hong, you guys, split up to awaken the others quickly. The rest of you inform the ordinary people in the camp. Tell them to run, all of them. Don't come near the bamboo building, go, go. Yuan Dao shouted several times, and realizing he couldn't wake the others, he immediately ordered the still dazed Han Guang and others, then started kicking those still in a stupor, trying to rouse them. Chapter 301, Chapter 165, Yin Yang Mirror. Wake up, everyone, wake up. Don't be fooled, wake up. Bang. Yelling, flying kicks, slaps, collisions, nothing worked. In desperate urgency, Yuan Dao and others even stabbed a person's thigh with a knife, hoping the pain would jolt them back to their senses. But even that had no effect. The person with the pierced thigh merely glanced at him, then immediately turned his head toward the sky, unhesitatingly pulling out a dagger and stabbing it straight into his heart. Squishy. They're mad, all mad. Stop focusing on these people. Stop others from coming over. There must be something invisible to us on the bamboo tower, something only those who have worshipped the mirror immortal can see. Just now, there were only 2,000 or 3,000 people gathered by the bamboo tower. Unbeknownst to them, more people gradually walked out from other buildings in the area, all of them approaching the bamboo tower as if possessed, their gazes fixed on the sky above it, with the same eerie smiles as the others. Squish. Seeing people committing suicide faster and faster, Yuan Dao gave up on this group entirely and led his companions toward the outskirts of the crowd. Don't come over, everyone, leave, get out. He shouted until his voice was hoarse, but it made no difference. The vast majority of people in the camp were still converging toward the bamboo tower. Silver-white gleams appeared in their pupils, as if they couldn't hear any external sounds, committing suicide one after another, just like Yuan Hu and those beneath the bamboo tower. What's going on, Dayar? What's happening? Dao, what's the situation? Lao Hong, what's going on here? Of course, a few sober individuals came out from the houses upon hearing Yuan Dao's voice. These people looked a bit dazed when they came out, but when they noticed the people by the bamboo tower committing suicide one by one, their expressions froze instantly. Everyone leave, don't come over. Yuan Dao didn't provide any explanation, noting that those who remained sober were all people who hadn't worshipped the mirror immortal. He immediately understood that he couldn't stop what was happening by the bamboo tower. Mother, don't come over, quickly follow Uncle Hong and run out of the camp. Don't stay here. The leader and others who worship the mirror immortal have all gone mad. Seeing his mother Su Lan walking toward the bamboo tower as well, Yuan Dao immediately stopped her, then quickly rushed over to meet her. Where's your father? Upon hearing his mother's inquiry, Yuan Dao's expression changed. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. his gaze unintentionally drifting toward the top of the bamboo tower. Su Lan was no ordinary person. She also had cultivation in the earth-digging realm. She guessed what had happened just by looking at her son's expression, and following his gaze to the top of the bamboo tower, her body trembled. Yuan-Hu was quietly slumped over the railing at the top. Even from a distance, one could clearly see a horrific wound on Yuan-Hu's neck, with blood flowing down the railing. Considering the scene of him motionless, and the increasing number of people at the base of the bamboo tower committing suicide, it wasn't hard to guess his husband's fate. Surveying the scene by the bamboo tower, Su Lan struggled to suppress her grief and quickly turned to her son with a serious tone. There are quite a few people from Ningzhu who haven't worshipped the mirror immortal. They might still be saved. Go save them quickly. Mother knew about the mirror immortal too. Yuan Dao was stunned, but hearing the latter part of Su Lan's words, he quickly realized something and briskly shook his head. No, mother, you come with me. Don't say any more. Your mother's decision has never changed. The more time you waste here, the fewer people can be saved. Hurry up. Seeing the determination on his mother's face, Yuan Dao's heart trembled. It's too cold. Can't let your father lie there like that. Su Lan murmured softly, decisively walking toward the bamboo tower. Watching his mother's back, Yuan Dao clenched his fists tightly, finally glancing at his father Yuan-Hu's body, then turned and rushed to other buildings in the camp to start notifying others to escape. Father and I weren't wrong. The mirror immortal is a deceitful monster. The question now is whether the leader He Yuan-Hun is controlled by the mirror immortal, or if he has already been replaced by it. If before, Yuan Dao had only suspected the mirror immortal of being a deceitful monster, after witnessing his father Yuan-Hu's suicide and the scene at the bamboo tower, he was certain. The so-called resurrection before might have been a ruse by the mirror immortal for today's occurrence. Yuan Dao, along with Han Guang and others, gathered all the sane people in the camp, organizing their escape while also contemplating in his mind. He Yuan-Hun was undoubtedly a real person, which is why Yuan-Hu decided to merge the people of Yuanzhou into the mirror immortal camp, primarily because of his admiration and respect for He Yuan-Hun, whom he regarded as a sworn brother. Yuan Dao himself had also long idolized He Yuan-Hun. It doesn't matter now whether he's controlled or if he himself is the mirror immortal. What's important is why he's doing this. Confirming He Yuan-Hun as a deceitful monster clarified many things. Great Xia must have some divine object that can see through and restrain him, which is why He Yuan-Hun caused the cold beast tide as a precaution, although it was ultimately thwarted by Great Xia. Chapter 302, Chapter 165, Yin Yang Mirror /2. It's not just a setback, it should be a complete defeat. He Meng and He Gang, along with 271 earth-digging realm soldiers, were completely annihilated, and even He Yuan-Hun himself was seriously injured, nearly dying. Returning in such a panicked state, creating this scene before their eyes, the purpose is very clear. Are they afraid the Great Xia might attack, so they acted in advance? Yuan Dao led a group of people to escape to the southern passage of the camp. Roughly estimating, there were only a little over 3,000 people, and amidst the mourning, he realized that what was unfolding now was a long-planned scheme by He Yuan-Hun. The Mirror Immortal camp had a total population of over 12,000, with more than 9,000 having worshipped the Mirror Immortal. Judging by how He Yuan-Hun gradually bewitched everyone to worship the Mirror Immortal, his target should be everyone in the camp, or as many as possible, but because of the Great Xia issue, he had to act early. Ding! A crisp sound of a mirror being struck came from behind, causing the crowd, including Yuan Dao who were fleeing out of the passage, to momentarily turn back and glance. Everyone's gaze froze for a moment. The basin where the Mirror Immortal camp was located covered an area just over 5 miles, not too large, with a 10-meter elevation difference from the ground, and the southern passage sloped upwards, so turning back just happened to allow a view of the bamboo tower. In the sky above the bamboo tower, 2 ovals resembling eyes and having an ancient design appeared out of nowhere. The mirror on the left emitted a violent beam of light shining on the bamboo tower below. Its size could at most illuminate one person. The mirror on the right also glowed, but it emitted a dark and somber gray-black light. The reason why everyone's eyes were dazed was because of the mirror on the right. A scene was reflected in the mirror on the right. Despite the distance, it could still be seen clearly. The scene portrayed another basin, bamboo towers, wooden houses, roads, with everything arranged identically to the mirror immortal camp where they usually resided. The difference was, in the mirror's world there were chirping birds, fragrant flowers, lush greenery, and abundant sunshine, with no cold nor snow. The ground was piled with food, and even people walked around inside with constant joyful laughter. Isn't that old Chen's family? I see my dad. That's my husband is in there too. Second leader, I see the second leader. One voice after another rang out. Han Guang even saw Yuan Hu in there, and was overjoyed to tell Yuan Dao. But with a turn of his head, he faced Yuan Dao's extremely cold expression. It's all fake, you all just saw it with your own eyes, those people are already dead, it's the deceitful monster's trick, don't be foolish. Han Guang was instantly much more awake, but others were different. Especially some ordinary people with weak mental fortitude, who just witnessed so many people committing suicide. Their minds already endured a heavy impact. Seeing the world inside the mirror now, something seemed to stir within them, and they started to struggle. Don't be a fool, it's all fake. If such a world existed, why should we have to die to go there? It's all a deceitful monster's trick to confuse us. Seeing many showing signs of interest on their faces, Yuan Dao immediately cried out loudly. Dayar, do you no longer trust your uncle? Yuan Hun's sincere voice suddenly came from above. Many who had been awakened by Yuan Dao couldn't help but look up at the beautiful world inside the mirror above again, eyes showing a hint of hope. I am the mirror immortal, I am the one who created this world of nirvana in the mirror. Inside there are no cold beasts, no deceitful monsters, no frost or severe cold. It is a world entirely opposite to Ice Abyss. Just die once, and you can enter, gaining the ability of undying. Even if you regret, you can still freely travel between Ice Abyss in the future. Don't you want such a world, Dayar? Yuan Hun's gentle voice was incredibly sincere, and as he spoke, many below began to look dazed, even unable to help moving their hands toward their weapons. Not just ordinary people, but even some from the logging realm and earth-digging realm were doing likewise. Even Yuan Dao felt a trace of wavering. Yuan Hun's extremely alluring voice and the perfect world he depicted were incredibly tempting to the people in Ice Abyss. Ice Abyss was not a normal world at all. Describing it as an icy purgatory would not be excessive. No frost, no severe cold, no cold beasts, no deceitful monsters. Who wouldn't want to go to such a world? Of course, more importantly, was that last sentence from Yuan Hun. Even if regretting, one could still freely travel between Ice Abyss. Before Meng, Gang, and many others had died once and come back, aside from becoming irritable, they had virtually no other changes compared to before. Doesn't this just further prove that what Yuan Hun said is true? He's lying to me, the dead can't come back to life, it's all fake, an illusion. Yuan Dao's breathing became heavier, repeatedly telling himself this in his head, wanting to refute it, but not knowing how, he struggled in silence. Old Guang, what are you waiting for? Hurry over, I'm waiting for you. Son, come over, your father is waiting for you here. This world is much more comfortable than Ice Abyss, come quick, father. Wronger, what are you waiting for? Hurry inside. Just a moment ago, Yuan Hun's words had already shaken many. Now the people in the mirror world actively started speaking. They reached out toward Yuan Dao's side, calling their friends and relatives, with genuine smiles all over their faces. This resolutely administered strong dose directly to those wavering. Thud. In the crowd, an older man finally couldn't hold back, drawing a dagger and stabbing toward his heart. I want to go over there, I want to go over there. I don't want to live in Ice Abyss. Even if it's fake, I want to go. I want to be with my family. I want to go too, I believe the leader. I want to go to that world. There was a second soon after the first, and then it became a chain reaction, with the over 3,000 people who were about to escape through the camp's passage, beginning to commit suicide just like the people near the bamboo tower earlier. Dayar, trust your mother, come in, and you'll see that the leader wasn't lying to us. Your father and I are waiting for you. In the mirror world, the voice of Su Lan, his mother, made Yuan Dao shudder violently, his eyes becoming completely dazed as he slowly raised the broadsword to his neck. Being born in Ice Abyss is a life of 9 deaths. If dying meant going to such a world and being with my parents, even if it's illusory, it's worth it. This thought emerged in Yuan Dao's mind as he exerted strength with both hands. Bang! However, just then, a fierce wave of heat surged over, pulling Yuan Dao directly out from his dazed state. A shrill scream suddenly emitted from the mirror above the bamboo tower. How can it be so soon? How can it be so soon? The voice of He Yuanhan, which had been incredibly sincere earlier, now turned frantic and filled with panic and fear. The two mirrors above the bamboo tower were already ablaze with raging flames. Swish, swish, swish. Dozens of iron arrows flew out from behind, all accurately hitting the two mirrors above the bamboo tower. Thug. Oddly, when the iron arrows hit the mirrors, there was no sound of mirror shattering, but rather like piercing flesh. They embedded in them. The next second, the tips of those iron arrows ignited flames, adding fuel to a fire that was already burning. Bang! The flames grew more fierce, and simultaneously, thick black smoke began to slowly rise from the mirror surfaces. Accompanying it was He Yuanhan's increasingly pained screams. How can it be so soon? How can it be so soon? Arg. He had only gathered over 9,000 souls, and the mirror realm was not yet formed, just needed a little more. Xia Hong actually attacked this early. The location of the mirror immortal camp wasn't hard to find, but Xia Hong had never been here, and the first time would inevitably take some time. How did he find this place so soon? How could he find it so fast? Foolish, I let you go on purpose. How could I not leave a mark on you? If you could escape so easily, wouldn't that mean my advancement to cold resistance level was for nothing? A teasing voice sounded from outside the passage. Yuan Dao quickly turned his head to find 6 or 7 dozen people dressed in black-cloaked mantles, standing outside the passage, drawing strong bows and madly firing arrows at the mirrors above the bamboo tower. Leading them, who else but Xia Hong? Chapter 303, Chapter 166, The Defenseless Mirror Immortal. Xia Hong, my leader, among our 3,000 people, none have paid homage to the mirror immortal. The remaining 9,000 in the camp have already been bewitched to commit suicide. It seems to be preparing some ritual, be careful. Upon hearing Yuan Dao's voice, Xia Hong's pupils sharply contracted. In fact, he had arrived at the mirror immortal's outpost for a while, but due to the uncertainty about the internal situation, he made some other preparations first to ensure safety, which delayed him a bit. In this short period, over 9,000 people have all been bewitched to commit suicide. Of course, shocked as he was, Xia Hong immediately responded to Yuan Dao's warning, gratefully saying gravely, "Thank you, brother Yuan. You take the 3,000 people and escape first. Leave this deceitful monster to me." Upon hearing this, a look of joy appeared on Yuan Dao's face. The first thing he said indicated that his 3,000 people were unscathed. He was just worried that Xia Hong and others might mistakenly believe they were connected to the deceitful monster and stop them from escaping. Xia Hong obviously understood his meaning and promptly told them to leave. The 3,000 people had already snapped out of it, with the foremost charging like headless chickens out of the passage. Yuan Dao glanced at the sky and then at the people from Great Xia on the other side, immediately starting his deployment. "Uncle Hong, you take these people and run to the outer arrow bamboo forest, find a place to hide. Do not enter the bamboo forest, don't go too far either. Everyone else stays with me to help the people of Great Xia." 41 people surrounded him at the moment, all with earth-digging realm cultivation. Among them, Han Guang, Han Tian, Meng Yi, Zhu Ling, and Zhu Yuan were even above his cultivation, all former subordinates of his father, Yuan Hu. "Dao, we almost. With this few from Great Xia can they deal with He Yuanhan, maybe we should escape together." Han Guang was about to turn away, but glanced at the people from Great Xia, furrowing his brows and immediately reminding Yuan Dao. Han Tian, Meng Yi, and the others did not speak, but seeing the people from Great Xia, they too furrowed their brows, evidently agreeing with Han Guang's suggestion. There were only 67 people from Great Xia in total. Apart from Xia Hong, whose strength they couldn't gauge, the others hadn't even reached the limits of the earth-digging realm. Not long ago, their over 3,000 people almost got bewitched into suicide by He Yuanhan. How could this few from Great Xia fight He Yuanhan? Upon hearing this, Yuan Dao hesitated only briefly before solemnly speaking. "It's almost dawn. With over 3,000 people we can't get far. Moreover, if He Yuanhan wins, it's a dead end for us all. We must stay here to help them. Have you forgotten who forced He Yuanhan to this point? Don't underestimate the people of Great Xia. The fact that they dare to pursue means they are confident. Listen to me. Don't waste time. Uncle Hong, go quickly. The people at the front are almost scattered. Everyone was instantly awakened by Yuan Dao's words, their expressions changing. All right, I'll go now. After speaking, Hong Guang was the first to turn around, heading towards the front of the fleeing crowd. Those who came to their senses also followed behind Yuan Dao, heading towards the position of the Great Xia group. This is solidified fire oil. Apply it on your weapons, it can harm the deceitful monster. Just as Yuan Dao approached without saying a word, Xia Chuan, who was shooting arrows, tossed a leather pouch towards him. Opening the leather pouch, he saw fist-sized chunks of black oil inside, realizing this might be the divine weapon Great Xia used against the deceitful monster. Yuan Dao's pupils slightly contracted, and he immediately distributed it to those around him. Following the example of the people from Great Xia, Yuan Dao's group also applied it to their weapons and iron arrows. Once applied, they immediately joined Xia Chuan and the others in continuously shooting arrows at the ancient mirror in the sky. At the front, Xia Chuan turned to look at Yuan Dao, showing a hint of appreciation in his eyes. The big brother was right, he truly is a smart person. He had also heard Yuan Dao's words just now. Over 9,000 people, all died by the bamboo tower. At the forefront of the crowd, after shooting half a quiver of arrows, Xia Hong turned to ask Yuan Dao. Yuan Dao quickly nodded in response. Most of them did, a few might have taken their own lives before reaching the bamboo tower. After responding, he immediately realized why Xia Hong asked this and quickly added, Yuanhun just tried to bewitch our 3,000 people into suicide again. He must still be heavily injured, and whatever those 9,000 were used for shouldn't be ready yet. Smart people make communications efficient. With a shift in his expression, Xia Hong immediately ordered everyone. Follow me inside, leave half a quiver of arrows and be cautious. Upon hearing this, Xia Chuan and the others nodded, immediately slinging the iron core bow behind them, drawing the broadsword from their waists, and followed Xia Hong through the passage into the Mirror Immortal's outpost. Now. Overhead of the bamboo tower, the two mirrors were still ablaze, black smoke billowing up continuously, enveloping the entire basin. Even though Xia Hong and the others had stopped shooting, Yuanhun's wailing screams hadn't ceased, still ongoing. Solidified fire oil ignites deceitful monsters upon contact. Those two mirrors must be the true form of the so-called Mirror Immortal, which means Yuanhun is being controlled. Charging first into the outpost, Xia Hong looked up at the two grotesque mirrors above the bamboo tower, a glint of light passing through his pupils. Suddenly he sidestepped, swinging his long blade. Clang! An iron arrow was struck down by Xia Hong, and immediately several hundred people rushed out of the wooden houses nearby. Chapter 304, Chapter 166, Broken Defense of Mirror Immortal /2. They all held large blades, their faces expressionless, looking like puppets on strings, but their movements were not slow at all, quickly rushing to the front of Xia Hong and the others. Swoosh, swoosh, and swoosh. Not only did these 100 or so people rush out, but hundreds of silver pupils also lit up from the shadows of the wooden huts, followed by thousands of iron arrows suddenly shooting towards them. Find cover, they all have earth-digging realm power. Xia Hong cut down the first iron arrow and quickly drew his blade to meet the two people in front. Wielding the Yi blade abruptly, he neatly chopped off their heads, but realizing these people's basic strength was more than 10,000 pounds, his expression changed sharply, and he quickly warned Xia Chuan and the others behind him. They were all just ordinary people in the camp before, and they just committed suicide en masse. They have been resurrected and controlled by Yuanhun. The reminder from Yuan Dao behind was somewhat unnecessary. Noticing the number of people in the wooden buildings, Xia Hong immediately had an answer in his mind. There were only a little over 300 earth-digging realm individuals in the Mirror Immortal camp before. Now, there are at least 500 or 600 people in the two rows of wooden houses on the left and right, which is clearly abnormal. Follow me. Xia Hong moved like lightning, his Yi blade flashing about, sending out cold gleams, not only cutting down dozens of arrows but also simultaneously killing a dozen people in front of him. When the long blade occasionally slashed the eyes of those people, their heads would ignite immediately, exactly the same as in the previous valley. Breaking through the blockade of the frontline human wall, Xia Hong led the group directly into a wooden house on the left. Swoosh! As soon as he knocked open the front door, dozens of blades greeted them head-on. Prepared, Xia Hong cleverly kicked the door panel towards the front, sending it flying. With normal force, Xia Hong's kick would have surely penetrated the wooden door, but using clever force was different. The wooden door flew out entirely backward, directly slamming dozens of people against the wall of the house behind them. Bang! With a loud crash, a large section of the wall was directly knocked down. The people in the front row who were directly struck by the wooden door were instantly torn apart, leaving no piece intact. Even those affected by the aftermath spewed blood all over the ground, losing all ability to act. This, Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and other earth-digging realm individuals of Great Xia, having witnessed Xia Hong's strength in the valley, were not surprised by this scene. But Yuan Dao, Hong Guang, and the 40 earth-digging realm warriors by his side were different. Everyone couldn't help but gasp, their eyes at Xia Hong filled with astonishment and shock. They had seen Xia Hong's previous battle with Yuan Hu. At that time, although Xia Hong took some bold moves that nearly put Yuan Hu at a disadvantage, it could only be said that their strengths were evenly matched at best. But the scene before their eyes now was different. Over 100 people charging, Xia Hong calmly broke through the encirclement, and without saying, he kicked the door panel flying, knocking dozens of earth-digging realm warriors behind, all flying and being killed or seriously injured. This was not something that could be accomplished by high basic strength alone. After all, it's just a wooden door, not to mention that even a logging realm person wielding a blade could break it directly, let alone the dozens of earth-digging realm warriors just behind it. Leakless muscles, muscle control, this ability only comes from achieving perfect skin and breaking through to the cold resistance level. It's not surprising that he broke through, but to immediately defeat the three main strength of He Yuanhun upon breakthrough, could Xia Hong possibly be a superior battle body? Yuan Dao's pupils suddenly contracted, recalling his father's previous words that once a superior battle body breaks through, the basic strength would at least soar to the power of three-maned. Looking at Xia Hong, his eyes suddenly filled with envy. Not only him, but Hong Guang, Hong Tian, and the other 5 slightly older individuals understood something when noticing Xia Hong showing strength without any hint of breath or muscle movement. Their expressions changed to match Yuan Dao's instantly. Supergrade battle body, extremely rare even in village-level camps, and it unexpectedly appeared in this small redwood ridge. It's simply incredible. They go upstairs. Whatever Yuan Dao and the others were thinking, Xia Hong was unaware of it. In this short moment, he had already led Xia Chuan and the others, clearing the entire wooden building. The 100 or so earth-digging realm people hiding inside had all been slaughtered. Leading the group up to the top floor of the wooden building, they saw people continuously surging from all directions toward this place, and their expressions slightly tightened. Brother, look at that bamboo building. It seemed Xia Chuan had discovered something more important. At his reminder, everyone turned to look, and instantly their scalps tingled. Although this wooden house was at the outermost perimeter of the camp, it was only 200 to 300 meters away from the bamboo building, just barely allowing them to see the situation over there clearly. The flames from the 2 mirrors above the bamboo building were still present. Even He Yuanhun's screams had not stopped. But likewise, the light emitted by the 2 mirrors also had not ceased. The mirror on the right seemed to be controlled deliberately, its black dark light repeatedly illuminating the bodies of the corpses on the ground. Corpse after corpse that had just been lying motionless by the bamboo building, twitched upon being hit by the dark light, and as if coming back to life, immediately got up from the ground and turned toward the wooden building where Xia Hong and the others were. These people, is this how they come back to life? Xia Hong's heart trembled slightly. They were all earth-digging realm. If all these 9,000 plus people were resurrected, no matter how strong he was, he would probably fall here today. Brother, the solidified fire oil can only suppress them. It seems not enough to kill them. The number of revived ones is getting more. We can't drag on any longer. You go ahead. We will hold them here. Chapter 305. Chapter 166. Mirror Immortal with Broken Defense /3. Seeing more and more people resurrecting under the bamboo tower, Yuan Dao was about to persuade Xia Hong to retreat first, but before he could speak, Xia Chuan next to him spoke up. Hearing Xia Chuan's words, Yuan Dao's expression shook as he turned to look at Xia Hong. What other methods is this Xia Hong hiding? All right. Xia Hong didn't waste words either, turning to look at the location of the bamboo tower. his pupils slightly condensed. He leaped directly from the wooden hut's window, charging towards the bamboo tower. Perhaps noticing Xia Hong rushing towards him, Yuanhun's screams became louder. At the same time, those resurrected people also attacked Xia Hong from all directions. Obviously, they were all trying to stop him from continuing to charge towards the bamboo tower. Xia Hong's eyes turned slightly cold. He took out dozens of pieces of solidified fire oil from his arms and threw them fiercely forward, and the Yi blade swiftly darted through them. Bang! His figure was like lightning. As he charged toward the bamboo tower, the Yi blade quickly sliced and liquefied the solidified fire oil, trailing a black oil mist along the way. After the solidified fire oil vaporized, it wasn't so easy for those blocking him, the deceitful monsters, to resist. They already lacked much intelligence at the moment, and many of their silver-white pupils were splattered with oil mist, causing their heads to burst into flames instantly. Those who weren't splattered by the oil mist couldn't withstand Xia Hong's Yi blade either. Whoosh! Xia Hong's terrifying power combined with extreme speed, blades flew horizontally along the way without the slightest pause, creating a path of blood amidst hundreds of enemies, heading straight for the bamboo tower. In an instant, the distance between him and the bamboo tower was less than 100 meters. Within the 100-meter range, Xia Hong glanced back at the wooden hut where Xia Chuan and the others were entrenched and found that more and more deceitful monsters had rushed over, his pupils slightly condensed. Indeed, I can't delay any longer. Xia Hong turned his head towards the two mirrors above the bamboo tower, focused. A circular fire furnace with a diameter of more than a meter suddenly appeared in front of him. The moment the fire furnace appeared, the two mirrors in the sky seemed to sense something, and their radiance suddenly halted. Even though they were mirrors, Xia Hong could clearly sense the emotion of fear from it. A trace of coldness appeared on his face. Sizzle! The iron refining furnace emitted two slight sounds, and flames slowly ignited from within. Boom! The instant the flames ignited within the iron refining furnace, the flames beneath the two mirrors also soared several times higher, and Yuanhun's screams intensified again. At the same time, those just resurrected people, as if drained of strength, suddenly stalled for a few seconds. Their silver-white pupils began to exude liquid, and their faces gradually showed expressions of pain. A voice of pain from Yuanhun came from the mirror in midair. Seeing the light beam on the right side of the mirror shining on the top floor of the bamboo tower, Xia Hong had no hesitation. He leaned forward directly to the side of the bamboo tower, leapt up, jumped to the third floor, and rushed inside. Whoosh! As he approached the bamboo tower, the snow-white bamboo on the outer wall seemed to come alive, shaking off the snowflakes covering it to reveal a layer of barbs. Those barbs were about 10 centimeters long, densely packed and sharp, shooting indiscriminately in all directions. Xia Hong, charging inside, bore the brunt, almost covered by the barbs. The moment the barbs shot out, Xia Hong's expression changed slightly. The Yi blade cut down several barbs, and feeling their lack of impact force, he simply ignored them and continued charging inside. Clang, clang, clang. The dense barbs hit Xia Hong's body, as if colliding with a copper wall and iron fortress, not even leaving a white mark on his skin, directly falling to the ground. Having charged inside, Xia Hong finally saw Yuanhun. He was lying on the ground, covering his eyes with his hands and letting out painful screams. Seeing Xia Hong come in, he slightly raised his head, looking at him full of venom. The two silver-white pupils were emitting thick black smoke from between his fingers, with sparks flashing in between, exactly like the two mirrors in midair. The light beam from the left mirror was enveloping him. That light beam seemed to carry an eerie high temperature, causing his whole body to start cracking. His face, hands, neck, all exposed skin had countless cracks appearing. Seeing those cracks, Xia Hong immediately understood. The left mirror was the thing emitting evil light. His left arm had been hit once before. He. You're too late, you came too late, haha, you came too late. Yuanhun, as if suddenly possessed, laughed wildly. He released his hands, and the originally silver-white pupils surprisingly returned to normal. The cracks on his body quickly began to heal. His manic demeanor combined with an extreme wicked sneer caused chills down the spine. Xia Hong's eyes slightly condensed, finding it difficult to associate this person in front of him with Gao Yu, the warm and gentle, kind, and polite visitor to Great Xia last month. Your black oily substance and that furnace only have a suppressing effect on me. They can't kill me. I indeed underestimated the superior battle body and the six main power, but you can't defeat me now. You can't defeat me, ha ha ha. Xia Hong let He Yunhun laugh wildly, just looked at him coldly. You and He Yunhun are one, but actually two persons, isn't that right? He Yunhun, or rather, the mirror immortal, his expression condensed. Seeing that there wasn't a hint of fear on Xia Hong's face, he suddenly felt like a heavy punch hitting cotton. Chapter 306, Chapter 166, Mirror Immortal with Broken Defenses /4. His arrogance and pride seemed like a joke in front of Xia Hong. This demeanor gave him a very familiar feeling. Why aren't you afraid? Why aren't you afraid? Just die for me. As if his sensitive nerve had been struck, Mirror Immortal suddenly roared in fury, his legs stomping fiercely on the ground, causing the entire bamboo building to shake. Countless white bamboo leaves suddenly fell from the walls. The falling bamboo leaves paused in midair for a moment. The next second, Mirror Immortal's body swiftly shot towards Xia Hong. His speed was incredibly fast, the strong gust created by his sprint making the previously suspended bamboo leaves all start moving at once. During his charge, Mirror Immortal's left pupil abruptly flashed, and every bamboo leaf he glanced at instantly transformed into a streak of light, suddenly shooting towards Xia Hong. Whiz, whiz, whiz. In an instant, the entire room was filled with streaks of light, all caused by the white airflow of the speeding bamboo leaves. The Yi blade in Xia Hong's hand quickly flipped, cutting down the bamboo leaves while his body constantly swayed left and right to dodge. Yet even so, some parts were still grazed by the bamboo leaves, leaving tiny and sharp cuts. These bamboo leaves. In his frantic dodging, Xia Hong glanced at the cut on his hand, and a flash of shock crossed his eyes. After the completion of skin remodeling, what he enhanced was not just basic strength. Xia Hong knew well how tough his skin was. He knew that the evil light shot from Mirror Immortal's left eye could pierce his left arm. The bamboo leaves he controlled also had such terrifying power. Bang! While dodging the bamboo leaves, Mirror Immortal had already charged right in front of him. In his hand, there appeared a longsword as black as ink. The longsword's unsheathing made no sound, and when it thrust towards Xia Hong's heart, it was silent too, only making the rustling sound of bamboo leaves brushing through when it touched the skin. With the rustling sound, Xia Hong felt the overwhelming impact and piercing force at the sword tip. 7-maned, close to 8-maned, no wonder they said I couldn't beat him. The moment he touched the longsword, Xia Hong sensed Mirror Immortal's strength. Over 750,000 pounds, nearing 800,000. Such terrifying power in just this short time not only healed all his injuries but even made him several times stronger than before. Is this the benefit brought by the suicide of over 9,000 people? Deceitful monster, gaining power by killing people. The more they kill, the stronger they become. Recalling the description of deceitful monster, Xia Hong's heart tightened with terror, his wariness of such creatures reaching its peak once again. Hey, die, die, once you're dead, I can devour this furnace too, and those over 1,000 people at your camp will all become my nourishment, hey. Mirror Immortal let out another wild laugh, for he felt his longsword had already pierced into Xia Hong's chest. Just one more step forward, and it would penetrate Xia Hong's heart. Don't celebrate too soon. Xia Hong's calm voice made Mirror Immortal's expression gradually turn maniacal. He finally understood why he hated this feeling so much. Because Xia Hong's demeanor was exactly like He Yunhun's. Both exuded the confidence and composure of having everything under their control. What are you? What are you? How dare you, being stubborn in death? Just die, just die, just die. Mirror Immortal shrieked hysterically, ignoring the rolling black smoke in his pupils, relentlessly charging towards Xia Hong, his hands nearly exploding with all their strength. Just to kill this person in front of him. Whoosh! However, in the next second, Xia Hong sidestepped, completely foiling his plan. This speed. Mirror Immortal's pupils shrank suddenly, the shock on his face not yet ended as a massive force transferred from the Yi blade in Xia Hong's hand to his sword. Xia Hong sidestepped only to avoid the fatal heart area. Mirror Immortal's longsword still passed under his armpit. Blood gushed from the wound behind him, yet Xia Hong remained calm. His Yi blade directly deflected Mirror Immortal's longsword, ignoring a chunk of his flesh being torn away. Both hands reversed grip on the Yi blade, lifting it fiercely from below. Whiz! The blade's speed was so fast, just like the swift bamboo leaves earlier, making an incredibly sharp and piercing sound. Clang! The longsword in Mirror Immortal's hand was directly struck and sent flying. The terrifying power not only sent Mirror Immortal's longsword flying, but his body also flew backward like a cannonball, crashing through the bamboo building wall 20 meters away with a bang. He continued to soar out 5 or 6 more meters, still suspended in midair. Suspended was not just his body. So was his gaze. Mirror Immortal's face was full of disbelief, staring fiercely at Xia Hong inside the bamboo building. How could your strength be? The sharp blade light sliced through the air from within the bamboo building. Xia Hong's slightly mocking voice followed. Who told you that after my breakthrough, I only had 6 main power? Betrayed. Betrayed. Mirror Immortal's pupils were instantly filled with horror and dread. As the blade light flew at him, he even forgot to dodge. PSSH. Chapter 307, Chapter 167, Seizing the Mirror, He Yuanhun's Confidence. From the moment he emerged, the Mirror Immortal camp was no longer a threat. The reason Xia Hong had this confidence was that, after breaking through the cold resistance level, his basic strength had increased to an unimaginable extent. 9 main power. With a strength of 900,000 jin, his skin remodeling was perfect. At the moment of emergence, realizing the terrifying power within himself, Xia Hong was stunned. According to the earlier description by Gao Yu, that is, He Yuanhun's explanation. At the earth-digging realm's limit of 30,000 jin, using beast blood to start reshaping skin, an ordinary person at this stage would only have a power increase of about 20,000 jin. Those with battle body talent could reach much higher levels, but according to his description of upper, middle, and lower tiers, the power increase would be at most 70,000, 50,000, and 30,000 jin. Once skin remodeling is complete, achieving a leakless body, and officially breaking through to the cold resistance level, the power could double again. Even by this standard, the most powerful superior battle body could only reach 2 manes of power, which is 200,000 jin, after breaking through the cold resistance level. Of course, Xia Hong didn't completely believe Gao Yu's words. He had roughly guessed that, when He Yuanhun came to the camp to gather intelligence, he intentionally said those words to entice him to use an excessive amount of beast blood, hoping to affect his breakthrough process or even kill him. Unfortunately, He Yuanhun didn't expect that he could use system resources to offset the nerve pain brought by skin remodeling. Before the last batch of beast blood was collected, Xia Hong's skin remodeling progress had already reached 70%, and his basic strength was about 120,000 jin at that time. Based on his estimates, with 50 jin for 1 progress point, and each point increasing strength by 1250 jin, the subsequent 30 progress points should only require 1,500 jin of beast blood, with a strength increase of around 37,000 jin. But the closed-door training process was completely different from his predictions. As the skin remodeling progress increased, the amount of beast blood used at once grew larger, and the strength increase was more significant. Fortunately, he had prepared nearly 2,000 jin of beast blood, using system resources to counteract nerve strain, continually operating at maximum capacity. Otherwise, achieving perfect skin remodeling would have been questionable. At the moment skin remodeling reached 100% progress, he sensed it, and his basic strength had already skyrocketed to 300,000 jin. According to He Yuanhun, once the body was fully remodeled, achieving a leakless body, basic strength could double again. Based on this calculation, indeed, his strength was 600,000 jin. 6 main power, Xia Hong was already quite satisfied. Gao Yu's description of a superior battle body would yield only 2 manes of power after the breakthrough. He was already 3 times that. What was there to be dissatisfied with? Never did he expect, after truly achieving a leakless body and breaking through to the cold resistance level, his basic strength would increase not just double, but a full 3 times. From 300,000 jin, it directly soared to 900,000 jin. 9 main power. Limited by his knowledge, Xia Hong was unsure if his situation was unique in the ice abyss or if there was some special term for it. But it was certain that his potential far exceeded expectations. Compared to a normal cold resistance level with only 1 main of power, his strength was was nothing short of crushing. Even against a normal cold resistance realm, as long as the numbers were not overwhelming, facing many alone with Xia Hong's strength posed no problem at all. This was the real reason behind Xia Hong's confidence. Poof! The Yi blade stabbed into He Yuanhun's left eye, the solidified fire oil on the blade instantly igniting. Xia Hong's gaze sharpened, and his body lunged forward, channeling the blade's power to the extreme. Swoosh! A blade of 1.5 meters almost entirely stabbed into He Yuanhun's left eye. Strangely, He Yuanhun's pupil seemed connected to some different space. Xia Hong's blade hilt had already pressed against his face, yet the tip did not pierce through the back of his head. But fortunately, the reaction between that different space and the solidified fire oil was still intense. He Yuanhun's eyes were already emitting thick smoke, seemingly corresponding to 2 mirrors in the sky, and after Xia Hong thrust the Yi blade inside, the smoke intensified several times over. Simultaneously, He Yuanhun's screams grew even more intense compared to before. No. After He Yuanhun's miserable howl, he quickly retreated, trying to escape the Yi blade. But Xia Hong wasn't about to let him have his way. Swoosh! Xia Hong suddenly pulled out the Yi blade from his left eye, his legs stomping fiercely against He Yuanhun's chest. Boom! With Xia Hong fully unleashing his 9 main power, that kick directly stomped He Yuanhun through the bamboo floor, his body bulldozed into the ground like a cannonball. Before He Yuanhun could react, the Yi blade Xia Hong had just pulled out shot back toward his right eye like lightning. Poof! The Yi blade accurately pierced the right eye, and a vast amount of thick smoke erupted instantly. No. Unlike the previous sharp, ear-piercing screams, after the Yi blade pierced his second eye, He Yuanhun's screams became suddenly fearful and weak. The black smoke billowing from his 2 pupils gradually thinned. Correspondingly, the 2 ancient mirrors in the sky stopped emitting thick smoke, and the flames on them were shrinking, seemingly on the verge of extinguishing. Ding! A crisp sound of a mirror striking came from midair. Xia Hong looked up, his expression slightly shifting. As the flames extinguished, the 2 mirrors seemed to lose their essence, gradually shrinking in the air until they became 2 palm-sized mirrors, one black and one white. Then the 2 mirrors began to slowly fall. Chapter 308, Chapter 167, Seizing the Mirror, He Yuanhun's Confidence /2. Xia Hong, thank you. A gentle voice suddenly emerged from beneath the blade. Whoosh! Following the voice was a black sword edge moving at incredible speed. Although a flash of surprise appeared on Xia Hong's face, his actions were not slow at all. He drew out the Yi blade, quickly retreated, and then leaped toward the direction where the 2 mirrors were falling. The moment he drew the Yi blade, Xia Hong had already realized that it hadn't been driven into He Yuanhun's eye. Swish! Even though Xia Hong's speed was already at its peak, the black sword edge still grazed the back of his neck. In fact, if it weren't for his quick reaction, that sword would have slashed his throat. A sharp pain came from the back of his neck. Sensing the power of that sword, at least above the 8 main level, and with the 2 mirrors just 1 step away, a heavy expression immediately arose in Xia Hong's eyes. Clang! Xia Hong caught the white mirror on the left. Just as he was about to reach out with his right hand to touch the black mirror on the right, a black longsword flew from behind, striking the mirror from his grasp. If I can't get it, then I'll destroy it. Xia Hong's eyes focused, and he hurled the Yi blade straight ahead. Swish! The 1.70 Yi blade was often used by Xia Hong as a spear. His skill in throwing had long been perfected. Combined with terrifying force, it drew a swift blade-like cold light in the air, heading straight for the black mirror. Clang! Unfortunately, just at the moment the Yi blade was about to shatter the mirror, the very same jet-black longsword that had just struck it away appeared again. He Yuanhun, clad in white, tilted the longsword to block, neutralizing most of the terrifying force of the Yi blade. With a flick, he sent the Yi blade back the way it came. Swish! Retrieving the Yi blade, He Yuanhun took the black mirror in his hand. Xia Hong caught the Yi blade with his right hand and held a white mirror with his left hand. Inside the bamboo house, the 2 faced each other in silence, each holding a sword or blade in one hand and a mirror in the other, staring at each other without a word. After a full 10 breaths, He Yuanhun sheathed his longsword, a gentle smile appeared on his face, and he clasped his hands slightly to greet Xia Hong. Xia Hong, I hope you've been well. Just as he had during his previous visit to Great Xia, Yuanhun at this moment showed none of the malevolent and erratic demeanor from when he was controlled by the mirror immortal. Not only was his posture humble and elegant, but his voice was also extremely gentle, and his temperament had become poised and noble. Without prior knowledge, anyone interacting with this person would likely find him quite likable. Such a person is precisely one to be wary of. If earlier Xia Hong had harbored any expectations that all this was the doing of the mirror immortal, that notion was utterly dispelled after the recent sword attack from Yuanhun, even though he precluded it with a word of thanks. But that recent sword strike from Yuanhun was clearly an attempt to kill him. In other words, the first time he came to Great Xia, intentionally revealing combat body information to lure him into overdosing on beast blood, was indeed Yuanhun himself. This also explained why that time, standing by the furnace, he was completely unharmed, for the mirror immortal should have been hiding then. With the mirror immortal dead, not only was Yuanhun unharmed, but he could even unleash greater power than before. His concealment was profoundly terrifying. From start to finish, even if he didn't directly participate in the mirror immortal's actions, he deliberately indulged them, intending to lure Xia Hong to kill the mirror immortal, then swoop in to seize the two mirrors. Attempting to kill him and seize the mirrors. Meaning, everything at present was very likely all part of Yuanhun's plan, with the sole miscalculation being Xia Hong's forewarned defenses. Understanding all this, a chill gradually rose in Xia Hong's heart. He did not respond to Yuanhun, but continued to grip the longsword and ancient mirror, staring at him with undisguised murderous intent in his eyes. Xia Hong, it seems there's a misunderstanding about me. Yuanhun clearly noticed the murderous intent in Xia Hong's eyes, a trace of apology appearing on his face, and he slightly clasped his hands as if prepared to explain. However, Xia Hong did not give him the opportunity. The blade cast a cold light as it slashed through the air. Xia Hong's body suddenly surged forward, reaching Yuanhun in an instant. Whoosh! With the power of the nine-maned combat body, actions were as fierce as thunder. Without even relying on the cold glint from the blade, the sheer speed of Xia Hong's charging body alone caused the air inside the bamboo house to whistle and roar. Yuanhun's expression changed slightly, clearly not expecting Xia Hong to approach so directly and decisively, positioning the ink-black longsword defensively in front of him. Bam! Blades and swords clashed violently, unleashing an invisible shockwave, causing the wobbling bamboo house to collapse entirely. The walls of the bamboo house crumbled down with a loud crash. Yuanhun's body flew backward from the western wall. Xia Hong followed closely behind. The retreat and pursuit unfolded with incredible speed. Facing Xia Hong's long blade, Yuanhun wielded the longsword to create nearly a black curtain of defense. Although his block was successful, Xia Hong's strength forced him to retreat continuously, his expression growing more serious by the moment. Xia Hong, please allow me to explain. There are hidden circumstances regarding the mirror immortal. I never meant to harm you. Indeed, I indulged the mirror immortal intentionally, but it was for the sake of the 10,000 people in the mirror immortal camp, for the benefit of more humans. As long as you're willing to hand over the other half of the mirror to me, I promise to give you a reasonable explanation. Chapter 309, Chapter 167, Snatching the Mirror, Yuanhun's Confidence /3. How about you surrender now and come back with me to the Great Xia camp? Then I can listen to you explain slowly. How about that? In the rapid exchange of swords and blades, Yuanhun attempted to speak and explain, but Xia Hong paid him no attention. Regardless of what he said, the blade in Xia Hong's hand swung faster and faster, each strike aiming directly at his vital points. Swishing. At the same time, an iron arrow suddenly shot from the flank. Yuanhun waved and deflected the iron arrow, turning his head with a frown to see Xia Chuan leading over 100 men approaching, all ready with bows and arrows. His demeanor changed. At the moment the mirror immortal was eradicated, those under its control had already collapsed, and Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and others naturally were out of danger. There was no need for Xia Hong to speak up. As soon as everyone gathered around and saw Xia Hong battling with Yuanhun, they immediately raised their longbows to help. More than 100 people together, coordinating with Xia Hong, quickly surrounded Yuanhun. Yuanhun, surrender, you can't escape. Hearing Xia Hong's address towards He Yuanhun, Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, and the others were somewhat puzzled. Only Yuan Dao's expression tightened, staring at He Yuanhun for a long time, seemingly understanding something, and his face gradually turned angry. Xia Hong gripped the mirror in his left hand and then looked at He Yuanhun, glancing at the other mirror in his hand. His expression shifted slightly. He Yuanhun was willing to set the entire mirror immortal camp ablaze, so meticulously and with great effort, all for the sake of those two mirrors in the end. It's not hard to guess that these two mirrors must be hiding immense benefits. Good things He Yuanhun wanted them. He of course wanted them too. Surrounded, He Yuanhun showed little fear on his face, only staring at the half-mirror in Xia Hong's hand, as if contemplating something. Soon, He Yuanhun seemed to have figured something out. He smiled at Xia Hong, and suddenly slapped the black mirror in his hand against his right eye. The mirror, upon contact with his eye, automatically shrank, and then transformed into a beam of spiritual light, directly merging into it. Leader Xia Hong, that mirror in your hand can't exert much power. If you give it to me, I promise to offer you an even greater benefit in the future. How about that? The answer to He Yuanhun was Xia Hong's faster and stronger offensive, and the hundreds of iron arrows from Xia Chuan, Luo Yuan, Yuan Dao, and others rushing forward. Facing the rain of arrows and Xia Hong's assault, He Yuanhun seemed to realize he couldn't persuade Xia Hong. Showing a trace of helplessness, his right eye suddenly emitted a chilling black light. Whoosh! The black light from He Yuanhun's eye suddenly spread, reflecting a fresh, lush, vibrant world. At the same time, the space around his eyes began to distort, the air ceased to flow, and even the iron arrows flying toward him suddenly stopped mid-air, suspended. This bizarre scene made Xia Hong and the others of Great Xia's pupils tighten, all standing still. Only Yuan Dao, Han Guang, and the 41 earth-digging realm from the Mirror Immortal camp recognized the different space as the illusory world that the Mirror Immortal had previously used to beguile people into suicide. Leader Xia Hong, this mirror is called the Yin-Yang mirror. The one in your hand is the Yang side, and the one in my hand is the Yin side. Since you don't want to give it to me, let it stay in your hands for a while. One day, you'll willingly hand it over to me. As the space continued to warp, He Yuanhun's body was slowly absorbed into the black light emitting from his eye. At the same time, those who had collapsed within the Mirror Immortals camp, having already committed suicide once, were also absorbed by the black light. After a dozen breaths, the entire Mirror Immortal camp was empty. Only Xia Hong and the others remained, along with He Yuanhun's final self-assured voice echoing in the air. One day, would he willingly hand over the mirror to him? Xia Hong looked down at the white mirror in his hand, his brows tightly furrowed.